The following episode contains approximately 815 spoilers for all seasons and episodes of Lost. You have been warned. Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever the fuck you are in the world. Welcome back to another episode of Lost the Plot, the podcast where two Irish lads talk absolute shite about ABC's hit show Lost. I am your host, Ado, and joining me, you know him, you love him, Dave.
Don't be breaking the heart of me. The last time we're going to hear that this season.
The final episode of season 1.
Welcome to our finale. Holy shit. I'm more emotional than expected. We did it.
Now, hold on. Temporary finale.
I know, but it's sad, you know. This will always have been our first season. I felt this way similarly to our Christmas special, our last episode of 2021, where I was like, 21 will always have been the year that we started this podcast, and we made it to the end of the year. And now I feel like this about the season. I'm pretty much going to be like this every time there's a sort of milestone or finale.
Now, I know we did a little bit of discussion on this before the red light went on, before we started recording, but did you think we'd actually make it to the end of season 1?
I always had hope, you know. I really wanted to do this podcast. I really wanted to work hard at it. And I knew, like, in us choosing each other, I was going to say me choosing you. It sounds like I led the charge on this. It really was a team effort. But the reason I wanted to do it with you is because I thought you would put in the work too. Yeah, man, I thought we were doing it. You had your doubts.
I honestly didn't think we'd make it. I thought this would be like every new project, every new special interest that I've ever had in my life, where it lasts like 6 months. It just falls by the wayside, you know.
Yeah,
like a tide going out, leaving behind its own flotsam of, you know, the odd trinket here and there. Like, I've got shit from stuff like that. I've got 2 ukuleles just sitting in my house. Haven't played them in like 3 months because of that phase I went through where I played ukulele. I thought this would be something like that, but I think having 2 of us working on this together, we've kind of kept each other responsible to keep it going. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah, and not in any sort of strict way or way that we end up arguing a lot or anything like that. No, I think you're right. We hold each other accountable, and it's been good. I know what you mean about the like creative projects falling by the wayside. That's happened to me very often in my life. I think it's usually focus on one project that I have the best results. And like, it's been that way with bands I've been in before. And then when shit falls by the wayside is when I try to juggle a lot. And this podcast is pretty much all I have going on. So, hey, if that translates into me actually doing it, then long may my no life last.
Now, I do want to be very conscious of us, you know, spending too much time sucking our own dicks here and patting ourselves on the back and congratulating ourselves on all the hard work we've done. But I feel like, you know, 22 episodes, we fucking earned it.
Yeah, I think so. We're not getting paid for this, in case it wasn't abundantly obvious. Yeah, we've put our own blood, sweat, and tears into this. Anyway, this is the launch of our Patreon campaign. No, I'm just kidding.
Can you imagine?
But that is how I would do it. Should we? I know I've seen our friends Lost in My 40s have a little buy us a coffee link on their website. Should we A, get a website, and B, get a buy us a coffee link?
Websites cost money, my dude. No one does websites. People do social media and apps on their phone. No, yeah. When was the last time you typed in a web address?
Maybe we can cut out the middleman, and instead of paying for a website with a buy us the coffee link, we just have a buy us a website link.
Who wants to pay for the hosting?
Any crack with you this week? Any news?
I've been almost directly impacted by the rising COVID numbers here in Ireland. There's a fucking spike happening, man. And I know it's the final episode. We're celebrating here, and I don't want to get too into a depressing topic or anything like that. But, you know, it's not going away. It's something to just keep in mind. My dad has COVID.
My ma has COVID.
High five!
Hey, high five. All right.
And of course, we wish both of our respective parents a speedy recovery.
Yeah. Speedy so that I have to stop hearing about it.
But with the rising COVID numbers, man, this episode was almost delayed Let me tell you something, right?
Okay, here we go. Another story about a brush with death for you.
No, not a brush with death. I just got a message from my boss this morning saying one of my colleagues was out sick and they might need me to come in on my day off. And I was like, no. That is not happening. The ship can fucking sink for all I give a fuck.
Did you tell them that it's not really your day off because you were working your other job, your unpaid internship on Lost the Plot?
Well, you see, they know that. They don't care. Oh, well.
Yeah, why would they?
This is only a passion project. And boy, golly, what a passion I have for this project.
Same. Oh.
Speaking of which, Dave, what do you think? Should we do it?
Yeah, man. We don't have a listener email this week, so massive stink eye to all our listeners who didn't write in.
Here's the thing. No, we do not have a listener email, but we got 127 minutes of Lost to cover. That's right, listeners. We're covering the entire finale. That is parts 1 and 2, or 3 if you're outside of the United States, like we are. We have the entirety of Lost Season 1's finale, Exodus, to cover in this episode. So if you're looking at this on your podcatcher, you might have noticed this is a long-ass episode. Well, there's a reason for that. As I said, a normal episode of Lost is normally like, 42, 43 minutes long? This is 127. So buckle the fuck up, strap in, because Kansas is going bye-bye. We are getting into it, all right?
And where are we going?
We are going... So we are finally on the season finale of Lost Season 1. This is Exodus, Part 1, airing May 18th, 2005. And I'm going to come in with a very early trivia point. That is the first time I have ever announced the air date of an episode with me hosting.
Yeah, I do it every time. And I mean, I don't really care whether you do it or not, but I've always wondered.
I have I've never put in that much research when I'm hosting. But this is the finale, dude. We gotta put in the time. Blood, sweat, and cum, right?
The more words we can get into this podcast, the better. Like of all the weeks to actually leave out the date, it's this one.
So May 18th, 2005, written by Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse themselves.
Ooh, the heavy hitters. And
let me tell you something, right? So forgive me if it might be a bit early for me to come in with this, but I have been reading The Lost Will and Testament by Javier Grillo-Marchais, right?
Oh, snap. We were alerted to the existence of this by a listener who wrote in a few weeks ago. I believe his name is Paul.
Yes, absolutely. That was Paul H. who sent in that email just before Christmas last year. And I've only recently been able to get around to reading it now. It's all about Javier Grillo-Marchais' role in helping write season 1 and 2 of Lost. Not going to go into it too much because it does deal a little bit with season 2 and we are just not there yet. But one of the things that he mentions is this relationship between Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse behind the scenes.
Just a quick reminder for anyone who's not familiar. These guys, particularly towards the end, but I think by now as well, these guys are pretty much the showrunners, right?
Yes.
Lindelof always was. I don't know. I think Cuse sort of slowly integrated into the role of co-showrunner, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, Lindelof was always the showrunner, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because of their relationship backstage or off screen or however you want to phrase it, behind the curtain, in the process of writing Lost, like they would often come up with the fully formed ideas, which the writer's room had to, adjust into the story. Or else they would have the final word on ideas that the writer's room would create. Grillo-Marchais being part of this writer's room for seasons 1 and 2. But because they were so joined at the hip, they were all the time, apparently, nicknamed Darlton.
Darlton, yeah. I've heard that somewhere, I feel like, before. That's been in the media somewhere, I think, maybe.
So this episode, as I said, written by Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, directed by Jack Bender.
We got all the heavy hitters here. Dream fucking like dream writer-director combos here.
Yes, all of the big dicks are swinging in this episode.
And it shows.
Absolutely.
Can we just straight up say at the top, I can't hold it any longer. This finale fucking slaps.
Oh, it's so good. It is so good.
It's such good television.
So without further ado, let's just get the fuck into this, man.
Before we do, really quick, I'm sorry. Exodus, pretty self-explanatory title, you think?
It is fairly self-explanatory. I mean, it's a book in the Bible, isn't it? Exodus?
I believe so.
Yeah, the book of Exodus. So we've got a biblical title there. Obviously, the exodus in question is Michael, Sawyer, Jin, and Walt hopping off on their little boat at the end, or at least they're attempting to in this episode.
Yeah, I would have thought maybe the survivors doing a little exodus into the jungle as well, away from the beach.
Ooh, I didn't even think of that.
It's funny because I didn't think of it about Michael, Sawyer, and Jin. So I guess it is multi-layered.
Wow, it's amazing how you thought of one thing and I thought of another, but we never considered each other's theory on that. Shit.
Hey man, that's why we got 22 episodes of this shit.
We a team. So we open up on Exodus. We're in a flashback. Walt, he's in a hotel room. He opens up the curtains. It's obviously early morning in Sydney, right?
You can tell this is Jack Bender or Lindelof, all the heavy hitters, because they didn't feel the need to fucking shoehorn the opera house in there.
They'd have Sydney Opera House just in the middle of the street just to slam it into our faces,
They'd have it in the hotel room.
Look, Dad, what's that? So yeah, it's young Walt. He's obviously awake way too fucking early, fully dressed, and he's bored. He's a kid. What is he, like 10 years old or some shit like that? And he decides he's gonna watch him some TV. Turns it on. We got the Power Rangers.
Fucking Power Rangers. Loved that show as a kid.
Did you ever collect the toys?
Yeah.
I only ever had like one or two of them, and I had to meet up with my cousins who had the rest of them so that you could like stick them together and make the Ultrabot. And then we always fought with each other over who'd get to play with it. And there was like a legitimate division of ownership on it. Like, well, you only own like 2/5 of it, so you get it 2/5 at a time.
It's like a timeshare.
Yep. So Walt's watching Power Rangers. Obviously, it wakes his dad up. It wakes up Michael. And the look he gives this kid, like this shithead, right? And he just very calmly asks him to turn it down, to which Walt does not reply, but he turns it right the fuck up.
And then he has the fucking nerve to say that Brian lets him watch it as loud as he wants. Like, dude, was Brian even at Susan's funeral? That cunt fucking got the fuck out of Dodge as soon as she died and went to the United States. Why is Walt still in his corner?
Of course he let Walt watch fucking Power Rangers. He didn't want nothing to do with the kid. As long as he had something keeping Walt occupied, he didn't give a shit. If iPads were a thing back then, he would have just thrown one at the kid and let that raise him.
100%.
So they have a little bit of an argy-bargy. Walt stomps out of the room and he's going down the corridor. He's bringing Vincent with him.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that, right? As someone who works in a hotel. I've never seen a dog in a hotel before. Surely that's not kosher.
Well, some hotels will allow them, and they'll have special packages that'll allow you to bring your dog with you. In the hotel I work in, we do that. We have a handful of rooms that we've, earmarked as the dog rooms in the hotel. And if somebody wants to, come down and dine with their animal, they have to sit in the outdoor seated area. So yeah, it is something like we accommodate in my place. Some hotels do it, nice. Some don't. It's rarer than it is common. What am I trying to say? What way am I trying to phrase that? There's a way of phrasing that. Like it's a very rare thing to find a hotel that will allow dogs, right? And the ones that do, it's usually under certain conditions. You can't just, make a reservation and show up with your Jack Russell. You just no.
Hey, I learned something today. I learned that it's rarer than it is common.
So Walt is stomping down the corridor. He's trying to take Vincent into the fucking elevator. Michael comes down after him, and they're yelling in the corridor at each other at this stupid early hour of the morning. And as someone who works in a hotel, this made me cringe. I could not help but just feel sorry for the poor front desk agent that's going to get the wrath of all the other people staying on that floor later on that morning.
Yeah, a fucking American comes out the door and goes, "What's going on?" He's going to kick up a fuss. He's married to a Karen. But this scene made me realize that, like, when Mike and Walt crash landed on the island, this was like somewhere between day 3 and day 7 of them knowing each other, basically.
Yeah.
They probably had to get through Susan's funeral. Maybe that's a few days. And then, a couple of days before the flight, maybe. There's no way they knew each other longer than a week. That is a crazy situation to find yourself in with this kid that you don't know and this grown man you don't know.
And I feel like landing on the island kind of forced them to be a little bit friendlier with each other than they are here, obviously, like the day before the crash, right?
100%, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just a theory. We come out of the flashback. Walt, he's sleeping next to Michael. Again, wakes up before he does. And Walt decides to go on a little bit of a wander just through this eerily empty camp. Fires are still burning from the night before. And he decides to go and take a slash.
Fuck, yeah. you'd never see people taking a piss on TV or in movies. I kind of love this. I love the idea of Lindelof and Hughes writing this episode. They're like, right, we need a reason for Walt to get up. What's like a good narrative reason that makes sense? And then someone just goes, he needs a piss. Yeah, fuck it, that'll do.
Well, I mean, in a previous episode, we saw Hurley running off Hughes to go for a shit, holding some leaves.
Yeah, that's because he had the trots, though.
And there is a season 1 deleted scene of, I don't know, I think Walt's looking for Vincent through the jungle, and he literally stumbles upon Jin pulling up his pants after taking a shit.
No way.
Yeah. You can find this on YouTube. I was in preparation for this. I was watching a reel of all the deleted scenes from season 1.
Ah, that's incredible.
And they are considered to be semi-canonical. Therefore, they are canonical until they are contradicted in a later episode, right?
Well, like father, like son, Michael walked in on son taking a shower, and then his young lad walked in on Jin taking a shite. That's so funny.
Yeah, like he thinks he hears Vincent in the bushes. He's like, Vincent, is that you, Vincent? Yeah, and then Jin just kind of comes out, buckling up his belt, and he's holding, a roll of TP. It's so funny. So Walt is taking a slash, and for our international listeners, that's going for a piss. And he hears some rustling in the jungle, and he's wondering what the fuck that is. And who the fuck rocks out of the jungle bearing a fucking rifle? It's Rousseau.
She walks in looking like a school shooter.
All the other kids. No, she just wanders through this campsite, and Walt is doing his best to be like, Sneak 100 from fucking Skyrim here, crouching behind the trees, following her. There is no way he is not like the single most visible thing there by virtue of the fact that he's not hiding behind anything. Even when Rousseau finally spots Walt looking at her, he's literally just crouched behind a tree that's no wider than his arm. As if that's going to help.
I think Walt was a little keyed onto this because Rousseau, to be fair, and in Walt's defense, was staring dead ahead the entire time. I don't think he had to keep himself hidden all that well. But yeah, then she straight up sees him at the end.
Rousseau kind of waltzes into the camp like a lost tourist. Like there's no hesitation about her, but just kind of looking around, a sort of bemused look on her face. Like, oh, wow, you guys set up a camp.
She looks like she found the plane full of heroin. Not taste. She's just catatonic.
Completely. But she makes eye contact with Walt. Walt goes to wake up his dad. That wakes up fucking everybody. And when they see, this random unknown woman holding a gun in the middle of their camp, they're all a little bit worried.
Bit spooked.
I love how Sawyer's first instinct when he's woken up by the commotion is he literally stands up holding a big ass stick. He doesn't even know what's there. He just holds up and he's ready to fucking throw hands straight away.
He thinks it's that boar come back to fuck with him again.
So yeah, everybody spots Rousseau. Everyone gathers around her, and they're all like, "Who the fuck are you? Get the fuck out of here!" Everyone's ready to like smack this bitch. But Saeed thankfully comes in. He knows the score, and he's like, "No, chill, everybody. She's cool. She's with me." And when he finally asks her, "Bitch, what are you doing here? What do you want?" she just utters the 4 words to send a tingle down everyone's spine: "The others are coming."
Oh shit! This is awesome because it made me realize that we haven't had a whole lot about the others since Ethan died. Like this is a good time to reintroduce them to the plot, I think.
Yes.
It ramps up the tension of the finale.
Well, I mean, if they were going to be reintroduced as an idea, the finale is where you're going to do it. There's not really much time else,
Yeah. I mean, it would have been disappointing if they had said nothing else about them for the rest of the season, though. You know what I mean? They slipped in at the last second, but it doesn't feel like they're just in there for the sake of a mention.
So that brings us to our title card, Lost, the Glitch. And we come right back to Rousseau, basically telling her story to the camp. She was part of a scientific team, 6 of them, I think she says. She was 7 months pregnant. They landed there, crashed on the island in a boat or a submarine or who the fuck knows, 16 years ago, numbers. And she describes how, she was 7 months pregnant. And about a week after she had the baby on the island, that was when they saw a black pillar of smoke in the distance. And that night, that was when the others came and took her baby. So this kind of spooks everybody that, she's been living here for the last 16 fucking years. I mean, everybody knows about the French woman's transmission, right? Rousseau's transmission at this point, right?
I think it's probably spread around the entire camp by now, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because Hurley knew about it and, you want to keep a secret? Don't tell the fat guy, as we will find out this episode. But to see Rousseau in the flesh telling her story, this has to kind of bring things to another level for the survivors, right?
Because she's a vet. She ostensibly knows what she's talking about.
And after telling her story, she says, y'all have 3 choices. Run, hide,
surely the last one is fight.
Or die.
Oh, no.
So fighting doesn't seem to be an option, or else fighting will result in that third option, dying. She's basically telling them you don't have a chance unless you either run or hide, which I would nearly consider to be the same thing, but however, we're nitpicking. So we move into the next scene. We've got Jack and Locke. They're debating the veracity of Rousseau's claims. Jack is very much of the opinion that Rousseau's just not playing with the full deck of cards, whereas Locke is of the opinion, well, we've no reason to really doubt her.
Mm-hmm.
So this ends up with Jack approaching Michael, just asking, how's the boat coming along? And Michael responds that they're still a ways from casting off. He thought that they'd be out pretty soon, but no, it's actually going to take a while. They still need to do this. They still need to do that. Like laying the rails to get the boat into the actual water. Like that's a big job and it's going to take a lot of people. So Jack suddenly has a fire under him to get this boat in the water, to get Michael and the rest of his little sailors out to sea. So he takes it upon himself to round up as many red shirts as possible to get this boat in the fucking water.
Jack's got this little gang of red shirts around him, and he's assembled a very diverse group of white men. There's every kind of white man there. Do you know the shot I'm talking about? It's like him commanding this. There's no named characters there.
Yeah, Jack says, give me 20 minutes. And then there is this one shot of him just kind of coming out of the undergrowth with all these random white dudes, as you said, unnamed characters. Like, where the fuck did you find them? Is there a farm or something nearby? You just grow them. So the next shot, we've got the rails. They're down, the logs. We're ready to roll this boat down the logs into the water. All these guys, they've got ropes on the boat. Everyone's pulling, tugging along.
This I didn't really understand. Michael just talked about how much work there was to do. I understand that Jack mobilized everybody, but didn't seem like there was that much to do.
Well, we've obviously skipped over a lot of time because all these big fucking logs that they're going to roll the boat down have already been laid, right? There's a lot of people here. It takes a village. It takes a village, man. But Michael's there. He's coordinating everyone. They're going to roll the boat down the logs and they fucking manage it. I mean, they get a little bit of a hairy start to it. It kind of goes off the rails a bit. And by off the rails a bit, I mean, absolutely completely. It fucking smashes. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone fucks up. It's not apparent too, although everyone's quick to just blame Sawyer.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a spat with Sawyer. Turniphead starts crying. And then finally, Walt sees it in the distance. A pillar of black smoke.
Shit. Not the monster, for those of you.
No, not the monster. This is just coming up out of the horizon, not at the other end of the island. Like you can clearly see mountains and shit behind it, but it's there.
I believe Rousseau, when she was recounting her story, said 5 kilometers inland. Do you think this is about 5 kilometers?
Yeah, thereabouts. And the final shot of this scene is Jack staring at it. And you just know he's fucking convinced now. He was doubtful of Rousseau's story at first, but he is convinced.
Where there's smoke, there's a fire under Jack's arse.
So as soon as he sees this black smoke, he goes straight to Rousseau, asking how many of them are there. He wants to know as much as he can about who these fucking others are. So in this gathering of information from Rousseau, she basically says to Jack, I can just slip into the jungle and hide, but you've got 40 fucking people. Where the hell are you going to hide all of them? And, I feel like this is a trademark of Lost, or maybe it's just Jack Bender, but the question is left hanging in the air and we are visually given the answer in the next shot.
Mm-hmm. And is it looking well?
Oh, the hatch. So at the hatch, we've got Jack, Locke, Rousseau, Saeed, and Hurley. Why the fuck did they bring Hurley?
I thought that a few times in this episode. Hurley seems to have somehow bluffed his way onto the Council of Legends.
And he is the biggest fucking legend among them. No pun intended. That is not a fat joke. Hurley is by far and away my favorite character in this whole fucking show.
He's got no applicable skills, but maybe they did just let him into the council for comic relief.
So they're all hanging around the hatch, and the big question comes up, how do they open it, right?
Saeed's still talking shite about keeping it closed, but we'll ignore him.
Yeah, Saeed can get to fuck. Like, what is his problem? I mean, sure, there could be anything down there. There could be some sort of disease that's been locked away in quarantine down there. There could be a ton of dead bodies. There could be a trap or something. But
just because he hasn't managed to get one hole open yet doesn't mean he has to stop everybody else opening the other ones.
Damn, son. But yeah, the question comes up, how do they open it? And Locke suggests maybe some of Rousseau's dynamite. And she says, oh yeah, sure, dynamite. You can get some of that down the corner at the Black Rock store, right?
Oh, shit. We going to the Black Rock, son.
The Black Rock in the dark territory, as it has been named.
This fucking finale is hype. Like, Lost is so good at finales.
It's just each season of Lost will cock tease these ideas, these concepts, characters, events, and foreshadow so much. And then each season finale is always such a payoff. And this one is no different.
100%, yeah.
So when Rousseau says, you know, you can get dynamite from the Black Rock in the dark territory, the look on Hurley's face. Holy shit. He's like, what the fuck did I sign up for?
He's got a lot of great looks on his face this episode.
Not even looks on his face. The line he comes out with, like, Rousseau says you can get dynamite from the Black Rock in the dark territory. And Hurley just says, well, that's 3 reasons to go right there. Brilliant little snarky remark from him. But anyway, this seems to be the idea, and it brings us into a flashback. Not a lot in this flashback, but we're going to get into it anyway. Jack is at a bar at the airport, and you know it's the airport because you can hear the airplanes in the background. Or I would say in the background. They nearly fucking deafened me. The sound design on this is shocking.
And I guess now is a good time to point out that there's no focus character this episode. Everybody gets a flashback. You get a flashback. You get a flashback.
Well, not quite everybody. I think we only have something like 6 characters that get flashbacks in this episode. But yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag, right?
Yeah, there's an assortment here.
So Jack is sitting at a bar at the airport. Random woman just comes up and sits next to him. And I remember, like that fucking Leo DiCaprio meme, I'm sitting there pointing at the TV and I'm like, oh, that's the girl from Resident Evil. Whereas a lot of people now these days would know her as being in the Fast and the Furious franchise.
I mean, she'll always be Ana Lucia to me.
Oh, yeah, really?
Thank God this is not a spoiler-free podcast where we have watched it, because there's no way to not talk about how Ana Lucia totally becomes a character later on.
Yeah, she's only in this episode in season 1, but she does become, I think, main character in season 2.
How is that, I wonder? I guess you'll have to listen to season 2 of Lost the Plot to find out.
Do we spend a fuckload of time in this bar in flashbacks? Who knows? We'll find out. But she's talking to Jack, just striking up conversation. And what do you think? Is she flirting with him or something? Like,
absolutely. Yeah. There's absolutely no bullshit from her first in this scene. She's like straight talking the whole time. And Jack, despite his dead father, definitely sees smash potential here. He buys her a drink.
I don't think he's particularly picky. I mean, he reveals that he's no longer married. He's single, ready to mingle like a Pringle. But to get into the content of the conversation, she basically asked him why he was yelling at the girl at the check-in counter. And at first, he's not very appreciative of this. You know, he kind of sees it as a bit of an invasive question. But, you know, they talk about his dad having died. She actually did overhear what it was about. She says she was just being polite and asking that first question. She straight up asks him if he's married. He says he's not. And they're ordering tequila and tonic. He orders tequila and tonic for her. And she's like, oh, wow, you actually listened. And he's like, yep, you know, he actually did hear what she was ordering. So he was eyeing her up before she sat with him, and gives her name of Ana Lucia.
Mentions that she'll be sitting in the back of the plane,
while he'll be sitting in the midsection. She will be sitting in seat, do you remember what number?
42, of course.
42F, and he's going to be sitting in
23.
Numbers. We need to stop pointing shit out like that. We're stealing from my trivia section at the end here, okay?
Hey man, I'll poach if I can.
She sort of half offers to swap seats with him because her seat is in the back. It's one of the worst parts ever. It's going to be directly over the plane wheels. Also, from my trivia, it's not. And I have to argue with Ana Lucia here. She says she's sitting in the back of the plane, which is like the worst part of the plane to sit in. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's actually the best. When was the last time you heard of an airplane reversing into a mountain? You want to be in the back. But anyway, she gets a call and, they've just had a bit of a serious discussion about Jack's dad and how he's dead and all that. And he's bringing him home. So, she ends the conversation with him with the words, "The worst part's over," which is nice.
It is nice, yeah. I don't know if it's true, but it is nice.
Well, considering they're about to crash on a deserted island. No.
Well, but even the worst part of grief isn't like, I don't know, from what I've heard, I'm very blessed not to have a lot of death in my life, but from what I've heard, you sort of autopilot your way through the funeral process and all that, and then the real work starts after that.
Yeah, I think. Again, not a lot of death in my life, thankfully. Touch wood, not in the near future. But the worst part's over. Those words aged like milk. So we come out of that flashback. We're back on the beach. Jack is doing his leader thing.
Finally, he's holding court again. I feel like he hasn't done it in ages.
Yeah, you love to see Jack in action, right? Tells everyone to help with the raft and then get to the caves. And then Arzt comes up. He wants to go and assist with the dynamite because he's concerned that those going don't know how to handle it. And I am henceforth referring to this team as the Boom Crew.
He also reveals that Hurley's been blabbing. This is what you referenced earlier. If you want to keep a secret, don't tell the fat guy.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where Arzt kind of approaches Jack after he's addressed the rest of the crowd. And he says, he wants to go and get the dynamite. Jack is a little surprised he knows about the dynamite. And he says, if you want to keep it secret, don't tell the fat guy or something like that.
Jack is surprised that Arzt knows about the dynamite. And Arzt is surprised that Jack said yes when he asked if he could go.
Yeah, Arzt seems mildly surprised that Jack actually lets him come along. But Jack is being smart here, I mean, there's a genuine concern with dynamite being unsafe if it's handled the right way. But if you go back and look at that scene, I love this. As soon as Jack tells Arzt, right, okay, get your shit ready, we're leaving in an hour or whenever, the look on Arzt's face, he's just so determined. He's like, yeah, okay, I got this. I'm the man with the plan. And he just jets off in the other direction. That brings us to the next scene. We've got Jane, we've got Michael. They're trying to repair the boat after the misfire launch. And they're working together sort of in their odd couple way.
They've got such a good rapport now. They understand each other, like, despite the language barrier. It's amazing.
They have this fucking brilliant relationship between them, despite the fact that neither of them speak a common language. And they've just clicked together so well. But they're tirelessly working. They're very excited. They're very stressed about getting this boat up and running and getting it in the water. Sawyer comes by. He's like, hey, put me to work. I want to do some shit. And they just blow him off. They're like, no.
Mike would rather work with someone who doesn't speak English than Sawyer.
But I mean, Sawyer definitely looks a bit dejected from this, and I can't blame him. But it's a very short little scene. It leads us into a flashback where Sawyer is being questioned by a cop in Sydney. And this is the same cop that was talking to Boone in a previous episode, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah. And at first I thought maybe it was the same scene, but no, he says Sawyer was hauled in there 3 days earlier, which is, I believe, when we saw him in that Boone flashback.
Exactly. And we also learned that during that scene, Sawyer broke this cop's mug, which wouldn't be so bad, except it's got pictures of his wife and kids all over it. So, oh well. But all that happens in this scene is that the cop reveals that he knows all about Sawyer's swindling past as a con man and tells him, get the fuck out of Australia.
Two crucial bits of information here, though. One is that Sawyer is in there because he headbutted a government minister.
Yeah, like a minister of agriculture or something like that, right?
And we also get his full name revealed for the first time.
Yes, James Ford.
James Ford. What a cool name. What a cowboy name.
I love it. It's great. But there's this great little childish exchange between Sawyer and the cop at the end, like where the cop's like, get your arse out of Australia. And Sawyer's like, I never coming back. And he says, yeah, best not, mate.
Don't let the door hit you.
Yeah, like then each of them needs to have the last word in this.
It would be funny if it went on like painfully long with them trying to one up each other.
So this brings us into what is... Look, I know we've spoken a little bit before about how each season of Lost, this one in particular, will introduce a lot of concepts, a lot of themes, a lot of ideas, characters, and whatever, building up to a payoff. And because of this show's uncannily good ability to deliver a payoff, This scene right here is my favorite in this entire episode.
Yeah, because Sawyer's shirtless and he's cutting wood.
Holy shit. That is the most gratuitous buff male shot I have seen in a long time. I'm straighter than uncooked spaghetti, but hot damn, look at him. So yeah, Sawyer's hacking away at a shit ton of bamboo. Jack stumbles across him, and Jack is just, I don't know, like striking up a weird conversation here. Obviously, the whole intent of this is just to give Sawyer a gun. He's given Sawyer a gun because he's the only one on the raft who knows how to use one, supposedly.
Sawyer makes a casual joke about child murder. This is wild. Jack hands him the gun. He's like, you want me to use it to put the kid out of his misery?
And you can so tell that Jack wants to argue with that line, but he doesn't see it as worth it. He just repeats, just in case. And he walks back off into the jungle, but not before Sawyer stops him. Sawyer's wrestling with himself whether or not he's gonna say this or not, right? But he calls him back asking about the dynamite. But this eventually leads into the story about how Sawyer, I'm not going to go into it line for line. He basically tells Jack, hey, before we got on this flight, I happened to go drinking with your old man. Tells him he was in a bar with a doctor in Sydney who also had a son who was a doctor, and how, he knows that the son is beating himself up because it's his fault. Basically giving this big cathartic release for Jack about his dad, right? Telling him shit about his dad he didn't know before, but he needed to.
It's amazing. It's a real bro moment. Sawyer even puts his shirt back on for the occasion to make it real. There was a nice, I know you say you weren't doing it for line, but there was a nice little phrase in here that he used that really resonated with me. Not like, I don't mean I related to it in that I was physically abused as a child, because I wasn't. I want to make that very clear. But he says, kids are like dogs. If you smack them around enough, they'll start to think they've done something wrong. And that was really, that was devastating, I thought.
Yeah, and it's so true as well.
Sounded like Sawyer was speaking from experience there. And obviously, like, there's absolutely powerful fucking acting from Matty Fox here. It's amazing. And Josh Holloway too. The two of them are, I mean, I know I joked about this being your favorite scene because of Sawyer being shirtless, but this is an incredible scene. It's an all-time great Lost moment, I would say.
This is a masterclass in acting if you look at the two of them, because Jack almost full on, just short of full on, breaks down crying in front of Sawyer. Yeah. And Sawyer is fighting through this toxic masculinity to be real with Jack when he's paraded nothing but fucking bravado in front of him this entire season, saving face at all times, snarky remarks and nicknames left, right, and center. But here he is telling Jack a story about his dad that he doesn't need to tell him, but Jack needs to hear. He's doing it just for Jack.
100%. And that's the thing. The actors are incredible, but this is such a beautiful thing for the writers to put in here as well. It's an amazing it's like peak emotional TV. And there's nothing over the top about it either. And it doesn't feel out of place. It feels earned and it feels justified. And I love it.
Yeah. Because when Christian fucked off to Australia, Jack thought that, his dad hated him. And his dad thought that his son hated him. Whereas here's Sawyer telling him, no, your dad wanted to tell you that he loved you. But then, I said that they're fighting through this toxic masculinity, but they just end the conversation with good luck. And there's an unsaid thanks from Jack. Jack does not say thank you for that or anything. Like he just looks at him, gives a nod, and turns and leaves.
Yeah.
Tears
in
his eyes.
They wanted to kiss so bad, but
now kiss. So now that scene's over, we go into another fucking great one. Like, this is a fucking brilliant scene. We're in a flashback. We've got, obviously, an airport official going through the attaché case owned by the Marshal, Eddie Mars.
Holy shit. Maybe we'll get an answer here to why he packed a fucking armory.
That is actually a question posed to him. 5 guns?
Yeah.
Why have you got 5 guns? Kate is sitting there. She's handcuffed. She's just like, get me the fuck out of here. I did not want to be here. And the toy plane comes up as well. The airport official asks about this, and Eddie just starts kind of, mocking Kate. This belonged to her childhood sweetheart, who she ended up getting killed because she's a dumb bitch.
He's being a real piece of shit here.
Oh, he's so good at being an asshole. But he obviously pushes Kate a little too far. She launches at him, slams him against the wall, all still handcuffed. And the official, the airport guy, the airport security guy, he just is barely able to get his arse out of the chair before Eddie clocks her a fucking
Ooh.
swift elbow in the face. And shit, we've said it so many times before, but the Foley artist on this needs an applause. That is a meaty whack.
Yeah, Kate's fucking tough as nails, by the way. Like she'd managed to get the upper hand on him briefly, slam him against this fucking window. Fair play to her. I have a couple of questions about this scene, or a question and a comment of sorts.
Yeah.
First of all, well, I'll start with a comment. I feel like this flashback really nicely and almost makes up for the Kate episodes, and it really nicely ties them together. Ooh. Eddie Mars mentions how he lured her to that bank in New Mexico where she found the plane.
That's new information, isn't it?
Yeah. Here's my point of confusion. I thought that Kate took the plane after Tom died in the last episode. Did I see that wrong or something?
No, I don't think she did, actually. No,
I think I even said last episode that she did take it. So
yeah, and I wanted to correct you, but it had been like a day or two since I'd seen the episode. I wasn't 100% sure. But no, Eddie took it and put it in a fucking safety deposit box to lure her to this bank.
And like, we complained a lot about the Kate flashback episodes, and I stand by those complaints. But this does, do you know what I mean? This one flashback sort of ties them together nicely. It almost makes up for them.
Yeah, I fucking love it. Because this episode has so many flashbacks and each one is dedicated to a different character, there's almost like an onus on the writers for this, on Dalton, to keep each flashback self-contained. It has to tell its own little mini story. But where I last left it, Kate has Eddie up against the wall. He fucking clocks her with the elbow, sends her straight to the ground, and all he does is just straighten his suit. He's not shook by this at all.
Agent Smith style.
Yeah. Oh, he so is. And just tells the security man, that is why I need 5 guns.
Kind of a non-reveal.
No.
What are you going to do at 5? Shoot them all at once? Like
a gun in each hand, big toes in 2 of them, one in his mouth.
He's somehow controlling one with his tie.
So we come out of that flashback. We've got Kate on the beach walking up to Jack while he's just packing his bag. He's ready to go hunt for the dynamite. And she basically just tells him she wants to help. And Jack doesn't really put up much of a resistance. He's like, okay, cool. You can come.
The trust is still there. I think this is supposed to be sort of like a patching up scene after the last episode.
Yeah, but I still wouldn't trust that bitch as far as I could throw her. Do you know what I mean? Like, she has done almost nothing but lie since she got to the island. So one good turn does not forget another.
Yeah, I'd only trust her if I had 5 guns on her.
Yeah. But, the only thing Jack says to her is, hey, you're not going to be here for when the raft launches. And she's like, oh, I'm not that good at goodbyes. And that's just planting the seed in our mind that Kate doesn't really want to be there for when the boys on the raft leave. More so in particular, Sawyer. So we cut from that to the raft. Charlie is collecting messages from all the survivors to put into a bottle for the outside world.
And Locke is right here because Locke says it's sweet.
It is sweet. He just kind of chuckles at, message in a bottle. And Charlie asks him if he's got a message, but Locke completely ignores the question. He's like, nope, I don't need it.
Can I just ask, what the fuck does Arzt say here? I could not make out what he said. So I went back with subtitles on, and he said exactly what I heard. It just made no sense at all. So Charlie asks him if he's got a message. Arzt says, I gave at the office. What?
What?
Did you pick up on that?
Is that before or after talking to Locke?
I think it's after.
Hang on, I have it right here in front of me. Just give me a sec, because I need to hear this. Yeah, he says, I gave at the office.
What office? What the fuck is he talking about?
Is there a particular tent that they've set up that they are calling the administrative office or something like that? Also, typical Charlie and Hurley moment. Hurley hands over his note to Charlie to put in the bottle and specifically tells him, don't read it. And the moment he hands it to Charlie, Charlie just unfurls it and starts reading it. Like right in front of Hurley. He doesn't even wait to leave. He doesn't even try and palm it or anything. He's just like reading it right in front of him. And Hurley's like, dude. But anyway, what I did notice is that Charlie didn't really get to read Hurley's note, but he does walk away from Hurley with note in hand, not in bottle. And that's when he goes over to Arzt, and Arzt is like, oh, I gave it at the office. It's not even grammatically correct. I gave at the office.
I gave at the office. Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah, okay. I mean, whatever. I think he does say I gave it at the office. Just the word it is very like rushed over. And whoever did the subtitles is, I don't know, maybe not a native English speaker. Who knows?
It's a bit of a one small step for a man situation.
So yeah, everyone's saying their goodbyes. Michael's saying his goodbyes to people, and Jack. Jack says goodbye to Walt and Jin.
Chiquino's working overtime here on this emotional goodbye music. It's really lovely.
Musical boner this entire fucking episode. So
gorgeous.
Good.
Yeah, the entire episode. You're right. It's fantastic.
But finally, Jack heads off with Locke, Rousseau, Kate, Arzt, and Hurley. Again, why is Hurley on the boom crew?
No offense, but like of all people to fucking go, why this dude?
He's clumsy. He doesn't have any major skill sets. He's not exactly, lithe. I mean, I'd say that specifically. Like, if they get jumped in the jungle by these others who are obviously a threat, he ain't running away too quick.
Human shield, maybe?
Oh, man, that's morbid. That is morbid. But they rock off. They're trudging along what I'm going to henceforth refer to as the Rocky Coast.
Yeah.
Like this particular area. I mean, this particular area is used in a lot of scenes in later seasons.
Yeah, it shows up a bit. There is a delicious blue ocean beside it as well. Did you see how nice that shit looked? I'll dive right into my screen.
It's gorgeous. It's a deeper blue than the fucking sky, which has almost near a cloud in it. But yeah, Rousseau stops literally just to take her top off, right? Because she's obviously just getting a bit warm.
I thought Locke had a little crush on her for a sec because he like looks over at her. It's so funny because everyone just stops and sits down. And Rousseau just wanted to take her top off. So she's like, all right, time to go. I'm surprised they didn't all go, for fuck's sake.
Now, hang on. Anybody listening who hasn't seen the episode, she is wearing a tank top on underneath it. She's just taking off like a sweater, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I should have clarified that. But it's just so funny to me that like she stops, doesn't announce what she's doing. And then as soon as everyone gets comfortable, she's like, all right, time to go.
No, Rousseau lives by her own fucking rhythm. She marches to the beat of her own drum and everyone else is just falling in line behind her. She stops, they stop. But this scene is only so Locke can see the scratches on her arm.
Yeah, that's why I thought he was checking her out at first. I thought he was like, oh, damn.
No, he's just checking out the scratches. Locke don't give a fuck. He's not here for the pussy. He's here for the mysteries. But yeah, again, another seed planted in the audience's mind. Rousseau has mysterious scratches on her arm. And she just says it's from a bush. And he just says something like, mean bush. But yeah, her just pausing to take off a sweater. Everyone takes that as a signal to drop the bags. We're stopping here. We're going to drink some water. And she's like, the fuck are you doing? Let's get going.
Everyone just, I don't know. It's just so funny though. Like everyone just like gets up like it's not a surprise at all. I expected at least Hurley to protest. Like, oh, come on. I just got comfortable.
Yeah, and he would be the type to do it. But no, Hurley gets his lines now as they continue walking along said rocky coast, where he is being corrected on Arzt's name.
Yeah, this explains my confusion why I was fully convinced it was Arzt.
Arzt.
I might still say Arzt, like Hurley. It's easier.
Well, I know a class full of 9th graders who can pronounce it just fine. And this is where we actually learn Arzt's... I cannot do the plural of that or the possessive. Arzt's first name is Leslie.
Leslie Arzt. Amazing.
It's a great name, actually.
Big Les.
So we move from the rocky coast. We're still following the boom crew. We're walking along. And finally, we come to a dark rag on a stick, which is obviously an incredibly ominous sign.
Just before that, I noticed they walk by a lagoon and I noticed they walk by a river. And those locations look familiar to me. The lagoon looks like the, whatever the case may be, one that Kate and Sawyer swam in. Probably is.
And I think I know where the stream looks familiar.
Well, the river looks familiar from the series finale.
Oh, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think they reused that for the very last episode of the show.
Oh, you could be right.
Yeah. Do you remember Jack kind of stumbling up that river?
Yes, I do.
Spoilers, Jack is alive.
Oh, what? The main character's still alive by the end? But yeah, they come to this dark rag on a stick and Rousseau reveals that this indicates they have finally reached the dark territory.
Yeah, she says it in French and I didn't know she was speaking French and I thought she said, they did it to Alphonse. I was like, who the fuck is Alphonse?
Yeah, but the funny thing is, like, this is such a weird French thing. Like if my girlfriend were to watch this, she would roll her fucking eyes because this character is supposedly French and yet totally botches the pronunciation of it.
Well, she's Croatian in real life.
Yeah.
In Mira's defense.
I know, but it's not that difficult to add an extra syllable to the end of the word. It's like, it's meant to be foncé, not fonce. It's a 2-syllable word. It doesn't even refer to dark as in like evil or malevolent or anything. It's a shade, like a color, you know, like to describe something as being a dark color. So like, okay, maybe it's particularly shady in this part of the jungle. Who fucking knows?
Stink eye to the dearly departed Mira Furlan.
No, we can't. No. We can't give Mira Furlan too much shit on this one. This is bad direction, or this is bad, you know, translation or whatever. But I love it when they reach the dark territory, right? It just sounds so ominous, even though no one really knows what that actually means. This is enough to spook the fuck out of Arzt, and he just bolts. He's like gone. Although I think what pushes him over the edge is that Rousseau says this is where one of our crew members, Montand, I think his name is, lost his arm.
Yeah.
And Arzt just pretty, like, he might as well just throw his hands up in the air. He's like, nope, I'm out. I'm done.
I guess you could say he can't be arsed.
Ayo. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, he is the most crucial member of the Boom crew. Am I right?
Yeah, I think Jack points that out as well. He's like, hold on a second. This was your idea. Like that Star Wars meme. This whole thing was your idea.
So after Arzt fucks off, we cut back to the beach. Sawyer rocks up to the boat. He's got a mast for the boat, cut and measured. And this obviously wins him back into the good books of Michael, who is suitably impressed. We go from that back into the jungle. Boom crew are met with appropriately dramatic rainfall. So you know shit's about to go down. Always does when it rains. And they hear sounds in the jungle.
Sounds a bit like Arzt having a wank.
Well, he comes fucking running full pelt anyway, because he is being chased by the monster.
Oh,
we finally get it again. Everybody runs. Like Arzt comes running out of the jungle. Everyone's wondering, like, what the fuck is he screaming about? And then boom. What is it? Like the fucking ground just explodes or something. But anyway, everyone starts running except for Locke and Hurley. Hurley wants to run, but Locke stops him. He's like, no, it's fine. Just be still.
Lucky Badger don't care.
Yeah, because Locke has come face to face with this thing before and he ain't scared of it. It didn't hurt him before, so he's convinced it's not going to hurt him now. Jack and Kate are with Rousseau, and Rousseau instructs them to run into the banyan trees, which we have seen before that the monster cannot infiltrate.
Yeah, Danielle knows this hack.
Smoke monsters hate her. But yeah, the rain stops and Locke points out to Hurley that the sounds of the monster are fading. He's heading in the opposite direction. So when we cut back to Jack and Kate, they're obviously not too far away. We're jumping between Locke and Hurley and then Jack, Kate, and Rousseau. But Jack and Kate asks Rousseau, what the fuck was that thing? And she uses the phrase, a security system.
Ooh, I had almost forgotten about this.
It's a security system. And they're like, okay, protecting what? And she says, the island.
Yeah. And it's the first acknowledgement of the capital I island by someone other than Locke. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's the first line by someone that isn't Locke that gives the place itself significance.
Yeah, it's attributing a certain amount of, as you say, significance and weight to the island. It's not just an island, it's the island, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, security system is a bit of a weird phrase to use. I would have said like guard dog, but okay.
Yeah.
And just as soon as Hurley asks the question, you know, when they all meet up, where's Arzt? He just shows up and Hurley instantly says, dude, I thought you were dead. We cut from that. We're back to the beach. Everyone's packing their shit up. They're getting ready to leave the beach. There's a bit of urgency in, you know, people's step because the others are coming, except Shannon. Shannon is there. She's packing clothes away. She's just, man, like you got to feel bad for her. Like she's just in her own world. She's still mourning the death of her brother. She's just doing what she has to get through the day. And she is visited by none other than Walt, accompanied by Vincent. This leads on to the conversation of Walt giving Vincent to Shannon.
What a sweet move by him.
And it's such a big, mature move from such a small kid, right?
He's so emotionally switched on. Like this is such an empathetic thing. And he even relates it to his own situation. He says that when his ma died, Vincent was there for him. Vincent's a good listener. It's a really nice little empathetic moment from Walt.
I couldn't have phrased that better myself. Emotionally switched on. Like he's just keyed into what Shannon is going through. Like he's a kid. He mightn't fully get it or understand it, but he's had a death in his, like a fucking significant death in his life quite recently. So yeah, he gets it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Shannon really appreciates this. Like, she's gone through such a change since Boone died. Notice how we are getting a lot less of the airheaded bikini Shannon. And she's now, she's always covered up. She's reclusive. She's unconversational with everyone. She's just receded into the background ever since Boone died. She's just totally in a world of grief about this. It's horrible to see her go through. And we see almost like the glint of a smile in her face at Walt giving Vincent to her.
Maggie Grace is fucking killing it here. She wears 100 different emotions on her face in the space of a few minutes, like a few seconds, I should say. It's a lovely fucking scene. It's really, really good. And
we then go from that into a flashback with Maggie Grace, portraying a very, as I said, airheaded version of Shannon before the plane crash. Boone shows up, but not until after Sayid shows up and just asks Shannon if she could watch his bag. Obviously, these are two strangers. They don't know each other at this point in time. Shannon barely even looks up from her fucking magazine. She's just like, yeah, sure, whatever. As if she wasn't already a bitch enough with Boone, she splayed out over like 3 seats in an airport. Like, if you're ever in a busy airport, seats are a fucking commodity, right?
Yeah, she is destined to become a Karen.
But yeah, so then Boone shows up and scolds Shannon for yelling at the desk agent because they tried to get into first class. And he's mocking Shannon again at how kind of useless that she always is, how she's not really capable of doing anything. And she's like, oh, you don't think I'm capable of doing shit? Well, watch this. And she just goes up to a random security guard and tells on Sayid.
Yeah, what the fuck is she trying to do here? Is she trying to like piss off bleeding heart liberal Boone? That was the only reason I could see for it.
I think she's just trying to do anything to show Boone that she can make a significant impact on the world around her if she wanted to.
Okay, wow. That is super messed up.
Yep. So goes up to the security guard. Hey, this Arab guy just abandoned a bag next to me and he's gone.
What does he look like?
What does he look like? I don't know. Arab? And that's enough for the security guy. He just fucking, gets on his walkie-talkie and fucks off.
If Sayid ever found out this would happen, there's just no way he'd want to smash after that, right?
No way.
This is awful.
So yeah, Shannon decides to have a little bit of an impact on the environment around her in a very negative way, just in case we were starting to like her. So we cut back to the beach. We've got Michael and Sayid decides to be a little bit helpful and gives Michael a flare gun.
Not just that. He gives him like a radar.
Yes, he hooks the boat up with fucking radar.
This dude is kitted the fuck up. Where'd he get all this shit? He got it from the plane, I guess is what he says. But like, that's just been lying around.
Hello, my name is Sayid, and this is Pimp My Ride. So yeah, hooks him up with the radar, gives him a flare gun. Very useful fucking things for a survival raft on the ocean to have. We cut from that. We're in the beach. We're in the jungle. Rousseau finally brings the boom team to the Black Rock, and it's revealed to be a big-ass, old-timey ship.
Yeah, several fucking kilometers inland, no less.
And this fact is not lost on the survivors, where they question how the fuck it got there. Even Arzt comes up with the theory of it obviously came in on a tsunami or something, right?
And he's not wrong.
And have you noticed that when the camera pans to reveal the Black Rock, there's like this big vine of leaves coming straight from the top of it right down to the bottom. Like, there's a lot of growth around the top of it, but on the edge, there isn't so much, except near the back of it. There's just this big row of leaves, this big column of leaves just coming down around the side.
No, I didn't notice that.
There's a trivia point about that column of leaves.
Oh, can't wait.
We're going to get to it at the end in like 4 years' time. So once the Black Rock is revealed, we cut to an ad break. And when we come back, we're on a flashback. We've got Jin sitting in the airport, which, again, trivia point about the airport. And Sun comes up to him. He's reading his newspaper. She brings him some coffees. He's almost like complaining about the lack of good food in here. And she's like, oh, I just got some, some simple shit. She goes to lay a fucking napkin on his lap for him and spills coffee all over him in doing so. But while this is all happening, there's like this really obnoxious fucking Karen of a woman sitting nearby, commenting to her husband. Both of them are engrossed in their own newspapers and magazine, whatever. And she's like, if I ever do that shit for you, I want you to kill me, or something like that.
It's fucking gross. Why would you assume that they can't speak English? Oh, I know, because she's a fucking Yank.
Yeah, American fucking exceptionalism. If you're in a foreign country and you see Asian people, you assume they can't speak English. Well, bitch, you are mistaken.
For one of them.
Yeah. But as soon as Jin runs off, oh my God, it's such a horrible line she says, this Karen. She says, oh, it's like memoirs of a geisha come to life.
Is it? Is that even accurate?
I have no idea, but I do have a trivia point about that line.
Shit.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you excited for the trivia because boy, howdy, do I got a bag full of trivia for this. So, very short little scene. We cut back to the beach. Sun approaches Jin on the beach and she's got like a little notepad in her hand. And she comes up to talk to him, but he's initially just like not interested, right? But she stops him. She stops him from walking away and hands him the notepad. And it's revealed to be like an English cheat sheet, which is such
great.
a sweet thing.
Yeah, it's like a little dictionary almost. It's beautiful.
And it's got words like aft, stern, wind, current, hurry, help. Those are the only words that I could see on it. But he's so moved by this, it brings him to tears. And he cries.
And we get another gut from Giacchino here for the fucking knockout. The music.
Man, knockout. This has me on the ground.
Yeah.
And Giacchino is about to fucking curb stomp me later as well. He breaks down. He apologizes. She apologizes as well. And she just begs him to stay. Don't go. But he insists on leaving so that he can be the one to save her. As like some sort of a self-imposed redemption arc he wants to go on or something like that.
So I think this is almost like a reveal that this whole time he hasn't been angry at her. He's been angry at himself.
I did not think of it that way, but fuck, yeah.
He's been ashamed and he's like you said, it's the self-imposed exile, redemption arc, exodus, if you will. And yeah, like fucking motherfucking Jin here, dude. Character growth. Good husband achievement unlocked. Good man skill tree now available. RPG metaphors. This dude fucking rules.
Yeah, but he says he wants to be the one to save Sun by going out and getting rescue. And she asks him, "But who will keep you safe?" And dude, I gotta admit, I actually teared up at this.
Yeah,
I could not imagine being Jin in this situation. I couldn't imagine me doing this.
It was beautiful. And the two of them kiss, and it's a damn good kiss as well. It's a fantastic TV kiss.
It's lovely. We go from that. We're back on the beach. Shannon hands over her message for the bottle, which seems to be the final one, if I'm not mistaken. Everyone is saying their goodbyes. Everyone's, shaking hands and hugging.
You can tell the launch will be successful this time from the music.
Oh, it has to be. There's no way it can't be. Walt is saying goodbye to Vincent. That's almost the most heartbreaking one.
Yeah. Jin gives his godson Turnip Head a little kiss on the Turnip Head as well.
Yeah, Claire brings Turnip Head to Jin to say goodbye. And I'm like, okay.
Well, Jin was there for his birth.
True. Actually, I didn't even think of that.
Jin and Charlie give each other a big hug, and Jin's probably thinking, I'll look after your son there now, lad, and your wife.
Michael gives Son a really awkward hug.
Yeah, the most awkward hug of all time. It's painful.
It's like they didn't know whether to shake hands or hug. You know that situation. I think we've all been there.
It's because they both know that Michael's seen what's under that top.
But, when it comes to that situation of offering someone a handshake and then they go to hug, I deliberately throw myself into that situation every time because I will always offer a handshake first, right? If I don't know someone and I'm meeting them for the first time, always a handshake.
That seems appropriate, other than during the pandemic.
Exactly. If a hug is going to be brought out of this, I want them to be the one to initiate it because I do not want to suggest hugging somebody and then having them reject it because then that's a whole social faux pas. Whereas me, I know that I will never, ever, ever reject a hug.
Do you know what the worst situation is, though? It's where you're hanging out with a bunch of people that you know and someone that is their friend, but you don't know them. And then when you're leaving, you're hugging everyone goodbye. And then you get to the person that you just met that day.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean.
That's fucking nightmare fuel. I mean, I usually, I think, go for the handshake. Actually, there might be a little bit of unchecked sexism in me here, but I think I'll usually give a dude a handshake and maybe an awkward hug to a woman. So maybe that's something I need to explore.
I don't know if that's a sexist thing, more of a social convention thing.
Yeah, you're probably right. A sexist social convention, maybe.
Or maybe it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. There's sexism in the social convention.
I mean, if I had my way, I'd hug everybody. I like a good hug.
I'm a hugger. Always was, always will be. But yeah, in this scene, as you said, Giacchino is fucking working overtime on this. The boat finally hits the water. They raise the sails, and I cannot help but think, are they not sailing from the wrong end of the island?
Why do you say that?
Was it not established that they're on the southern end of the island, and the next bit of land south from them is Antarctica?
Yeah, well, they do loop around, right?
They have to.
I think it's hell.
And now I feel fucking stupid for not thinking that they just sailed around the island. Oh shit.
Well, yeah, they do. Because I mean, to jump ahead a little bit, they have that scene where they see all the mountains and they comment on how huge the fucking island is.
Yeah, they set sail. They're out on their merry little boat.
And then poor old Vincent gives chase.
Oh, Vincent comes after them in the water. He's swimming, and Walt is like, "Go back, Vincent, go back."
And he does.
Oh, he does. He's like a good little boy. He turns around and he swims back home, and it's so sweet.
And what makes it even sadder is Shannon is dealing with all this grief, and now she has to deal with a fucking wet dog as well.
The smell of wet dog. Well, at least they're outdoors. It's not that bad.
Wet dog smell has got to be like the bottom 5 smells in the world, right? I fucking hate it.
I don't mind it so much, although I think it's because I was raised with it. Sort of like another smell that everyone finds so detestable is the smell of silage.
And you like it?
It just reminds me of home. Because the house I grew up in was surrounded on 2 sides by another farmer's field who always poured silage on his field every year. So it was just a seasonal thing for me. I just grew up used to it, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough.
But the boat hits the water, sets sail, everyone's cheering. Vincent tries to chase them. The sails are up. They're hitting the high winds, the high seas.
Can I just interject really quick to say, just on an aesthetic level, I love that oceanic logo on the side of the raft. Do you know what I'm talking about? They've used, I think it's for like a cabin or something. They've used some bit of plane wreckage, and the oceanic logo is right there. And it's just like the cherry on top of what an awesome boat.
I know. It's like this is the continuation of the oceanic flight.
Yeah. I also think that oceanic logo would make a good tattoo.
Ooh, giving me ideas. But we end the episode on a final shot of the pillar of black smoke in the distance.
Yeah, a dramatic reminder.
And then boom, lost.
End of part 1.
End of part 1 of Exodus. Dave, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, some really beautiful moments in that. A lot of hype. I think maybe we'll talk about our overall thoughts more at the end of the second or third part, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, just to say, I'm hyped. It's fucking, they've killed it so far. I'm damn excited for part 2.
Yeah, you can see all the threads from the previous episodes, particularly to do with like the mysteries of the island. They're all starting to come together. They're all getting their own screen time. And it's setting us up perfectly for what I'm going to refer to as the actual finale, right? So now we move into part 2, which is twice the length of part 1. So, oh boy.
Yeah. And again, just to clear up any confusion, if you're watching on Disney Plus, part 2 is split into part 2 and 3, but the original airing was part 2 and 3 all in one go.
Correct. Exodus was originally aired in the United States as a 2-parter. The first part was the same length as a normal episode, 42 minutes, 40 something seconds, I think. Don't quote me on that. But the second part was a big bumper episode. It was like 80 something minutes, right? It was twice the length. But outside of the United States, from what I can gather, it was actually split into 2 40-minute segments. So if you are watching this on Disney Plus, you will see Exodus as being a 3-parter. If you're outside of the United States, I wonder, is it in 2 parts in the United States on Disney Plus?
I think Disney Plus across the board, even in the US, has it in 3 parts.
Interesting. And so without further ado, it's part 2. So this episode opens up on Turnip Head crying while everyone is evacuating the beach.
Yeah, we got a Turnip Head eye motif.
I didn't catch that and didn't even realize it until you said it. Yeah, it's been a while since we had a good eye motif, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they kind of neglected them the last few episodes.
Claire is freaking out about the baby. She's full on in freak out mode because, I mean, she's got every right to be. They're under immediate threat. She's got a newborn here.
She's got what I I'm calling her congested exasperation voice. Do you know what I'm talking about? She talks like she's like,
like she's trying to say too many words and doesn't have enough time to say them.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough air to say them either. But yeah, poor Claire, she's stressing.
Yeah, and gives the line that, you know, you hear every new mother on TV say, no one taught me how to do this shit. and Charlie is useful prick as always. It's going to be okay. And she's like, how the fuck do you know that? You can't say that. It's not going to be okay. But we cut from that to Saeed on the beach. He's given instructions. He's on his shit. He's being leader Saeed here. You love to see it. Instructing others to get to the caves. And that's when Charlie walks up to him, demanding a gun. Because he knows Saeed either has one or knows where to get them. And Saeed questions him. He's like, what the fuck do you need a gun for? And Charlie's like, I need one to protect Claire. And Saeed gives the very philosophical answer of no. Because last time you had a firearm, how do you think Saeed was going to finish that sentence? Because he gets interrupted.
Yeah, well, he was going to talk about Ethan, I'm sure. But Charlie is, of course, standing by his brutal, impulsive murder. Cool.
Yeah, he shot a murderer. So Charlie doesn't see anything wrong with what he did in killing Ethan last time, whereas Saeed obviously still harbors, you know, hard feelings about it a little bit.
Maybe they would have more information on how to prepare for this other attack had they kept him alive.
Yeah, maybe they'd actually know a little bit more about the others. But no, Saeed says if you want to be helpful to Claire, go and help her pack. Help her with the baby. Maybe not bring a gun near a child, right? He doesn't say that last bit, but it's kind of implied. So then we cut to a beautiful shot of the Black Rock as we saw it last time, just sitting there in the jungle. It hasn't really moved. I mean, it's a boat. It's on land. It's not going anywhere.
I think this is actually where Arzt makes the guess about the tsunami. We said he did it before, but I think it's in this scene.
Yeah, everyone's just admiring the boat. And Hurley asks the obvious question of how the fuck it even got there. And Rousseau turns to him and says, are you on the same island I am?
Great line.
Yeah, it's an odd question, but, you know, Hurley takes it. He's like, okay, fair enough. But yeah, once they've all kind of gotten over the question, the unanswerable question of how the fuck the boat got there, everyone decides to head into it. And that is when Rousseau takes her moment to fuck off.
And Locke tries a bit of reverse psychology here. He says, let her go, Jack. But it doesn't work.
Yeah. Is this reverse psychology?
Nah, I'm just kidding. But it would be funny if he was trying to like, here, I know what'll work. That's fine, Jack. Let her go. Treat her like a child.
But Jack is trying to stop her from leaving. But she astutely points out that her only job was to bring them to the Black Rock. It wasn't to do anything else. She's done. Yeah. She's out of here. And Jack is really disappointed by this. But why? There's already plenty of people there.
Because Jack says, how are we going to get back? And Locke says, I can lead us back. And then Jack literally goes, damn it. Because he doesn't want Locke leading them anywhere.
Yeah. So everyone makes their way into the boat.
Except Arzt, who says it's a ghost ship, despite him being a science teacher.
Correct. And Hurley stays outside as well, if I'm remembering that correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hurley and Arzt decide, no, they're cool with, not going in. But we then see Locke and Jack and Kate. They're climbing into said goat ship. Goat ship? Ghost ship. It's not a goat ship. Man, it would have been cool if it was a goat ship, just like covered in goats and shit. Actually, there should be all kinds of wild animals living in this boat, right? Yeah. It's perfect shelter.
Yeah, you would have thought so. At least a boar or a polar bear.
Yeah, but it's very dark inside. Jack's little flashlight still fucking works somehow. And there are skeletons all over the place. They nearly trip over the bones.
Skeletons in chains.
Yeah, they're all in manacles. And this, leads them to the conclusion that this was a slave ship.
Locke cracks out a bit of history.
Yeah, possibly from a mining company because all of the equipment that's all around the place.
Yeah, and he gives an educated guess that it pushed off from Mozambique or something.
Yeah, eastern coast of Africa, something like that. But yeah, it's a good guess. I mean, given all the evidence that they have, sure. But the origins of the ship are not important. They're here for one reason and one reason only. And with a little digging around, Kate finds it.
Dynamite!
Correct. Kate finds a big fucking crate filled with the shit. We cut to outside the Black Rock. Arzt is telling Hurley tales from his third wife. Holy shit. And the face on Hurley, he's just like, kill me now. But this is so great. We've said all season that Hurley is always the voice of the audience. But here it's Arzt completely. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not cool enough to be part of your merry little band of adventurers.
Yeah. He's pissed it's only a red shirt. He's not in the main character clique.
Yeah, he's like, you know, I'm a high school teacher. I know a clique when I see one. Y'all think you're the only ones on the island. Well, there were 40 other survivors of this plane crash, and we all deserve screen time too, right? He's just throwing a little hissy fit.
Yeah, it's meta as fuck.
And Hurley doesn't even react. He's just like, okay, whatever, dude. Back inside the ship, Jack insists on opening the crate outside. Kate almost opens it in the boat, but Jack's like, no, we got to open it outside. And I'm confused why.
Well, Locke agrees. I don't know. I guess because even if they do manage to get out of the way of an explosion, it could cause the boat to start caving in and collapsing. Just less damage if something goes wrong outside, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe there's like other crates filled with dynamite. So if one goes off, the whole fucking thing goes up.
Kablamo.
But yeah, Kate nearly pries open the fucking crate in the ship with a pickaxe. And Jack's like, yeah, maybe that's not a good idea. And as you say, Locke agrees. So then we cut to back outside the Black Rock. Arzt is still on his little rant. He's complaining that, you know, all the main cast have the best materials to build their shelters out of. Like, he's still on it. And that's when he sees Jack and Locke carrying the crate out of the Black Rock. And he freaks. He just jumps up and he's like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing? Set it down gently. And he just pulls this I am in fucking charge card, right?
Because he was just complaining about not being a main character. And now he gets to his moment in the sun.
I mean, Arzt is getting a lot of screen time here. Be a shame if anything happened. But yeah, it turns into a real history teacher with a history lesson on, you know, the origins of nitroglycerin. And he's telling this story while he's opening it up with like a little penknife and safely removing a stick of dynamite to show them all how it sweats in over 90-degree heat, and tells them all the story how the inventor of nitroglycerin blew himself the fuck up. Early trivia point. That is a completely fictional story.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, and, you know, he's holding a stick of dynamite, telling the story, and he seems to wave it just a little bit too much because we just get the minor event of Arzt blowing the fuck up mid-sentence. And no matter how many times I've seen this scene, it always catches me off guard.
Iconic Lost Death. It's fucking incredible. R.I.P. Leslie Arzt.
It's such a great scene as well because he's so commanding. You know, he's inserted himself as this leader position.
He gets Kate to take her shirt off.
Yeah, without fucking hesitating. He just orders Kate, take your shirt off. Give me your shirt. She's like, what? He's like, give me your shirt. Take it off. Give me your shirt. But thankfully, she's double layered. Gives him the outer layer, the outer shirt. He dabs it in some mud, wraps it around the stick of dynamite nice and gently. But yeah, waves it a bit too much and blows the fuck up. Oh, well, too bad. So sad.
You could just tell with that death, like Darlton, they were just having a bit of crack, weren't they? They're like, what's the wildest shit we can do here?
But there's a minor detail of when he blows up. Him blowing up is obviously the crux of this, right? It's this big sudden event that catches you off guard and it knocks everyone to the ground, just the force of this explosion. But immediately afterwards, there is a rainfall of Arzt all over them. Like, a lot of it is leaves falling from the trees and shit, but there is a lot of heavy rainfall of just flesh, and it is disgusting. And we do see a bit more of it later on. However, we cut from that into a flashback, and we're revisiting a scene. We've got Sun and Jin in the airport. She spills the coffee on him, and as he runs away, in the background, we see Saeed being escorted by the security after they've obviously picked him up for his unattended bag.
He's appropriately pissed off, but he takes it in stride, I think.
Yeah, he just says to them, you know, am I being detained? No. See ya. I got a plane to fucking catch. We cut to Jin. He's in the bathroom. He's trying to clean the coffee off himself. And this random fucking, like, American dude in a Hawaiian shirt is just standing next to him and is like, hey, can you hand me a paper towel?
There's fucking Americans all over this airport.
In Sydney. Well, I mean, they're right outside a terminal for a plane heading to LAX, right?
I guess.
Anyway, so the dude realizes that Jin doesn't speak English. And he's like, oh, wait, sorry, my bad. Goes over to the paper towels and in fluent Korean says, look, here it is, a paper towel. And Jin catches onto this. He's like, wait, what? And it is revealed that this gentleman works for Mr. Pack.
This dude has good Korean.
At least he would if it wasn't dubbed over.
Oh, you think it's dubbed?
It is dubbed. Sorry, that was a trivia point.
It's so confirmed. It was pretty convincing because you can tell it's an American dude speaking Korean. I didn't know that. Like, you can absolutely hear the accent. And, I don't speak Korean, so I can't speak to how well it's pronounced. But it was convincing enough, I thought.
Yeah, I didn't hear the word gomson in there, so I know he didn't say anything about a thumb. I mean, even though it is dubbed over, like, we do get a lot of close-up shots of this dude, and lip syncing is perfect. So I've no doubt in my mind, this man speaks Korean, and it is so good. But yeah, Jin is fucking spooked because this guy reveals he works for Mr. Pike. He's been following Jin and warns him that he knows he's been thinking of going to the United States and then absconding. But if he does that, Mr. Pike will not be happy and he will lose son.
Mr. Pike can suck a dick. I have nothing witty to say about that scene. Just fuck him.
Yeah. We go from that Jin flashback into Jin on the boat. We've got Jin, Sawyer, Michael, and Walter on the boat, and they're just regarding the island they have left behind and how fucking huge it is.
It's massive.
Sawyer makes some comment of, you could build a nice little beach resort over there. And Jin is a real fucking Jack the Lad Sparrow on this boat. Captain Jack Sparrow. He's standing up on the mast. He knows what he's doing. He's been sailing. He's got this shit. He knows how to work a boat.
What a man.
Yeah, it's great to see it. But after they're finished looking at the island, Sawyer starts singing a little bit of Bob Marley to himself, redemption song.
A bit of trivia for you there, Ado.
Oh.
Bob Marley has an album called Exodus.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Redemption song is not on there.
Oh, shame.
But yeah, there's also a song on there called Exodus. Good album. Really good album.
Oh, fucking hell. How did that not come up in my research? But Michael asks him about it. He's like, you singing Bob Marley? And Sawyer just goes, no. Why? You like Bob Marley? And Michael's like, who don't like Bob Marley, right?
Why would he be embarrassed?
I don't know. He probably didn't realize he was singing to himself. I mean, that happens to me all the time. I'm always singing to myself and I don't even realize it. But yeah, it's nice to see them bonding over this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that cuts beautifully into Sun looking out at the water from the beach. Behind her, we see Shannon lugging all the luggage in the fucking world, along with being pulled along by Vincent. And Saeed comes up. He wants to help her with the luggage. And she's like, no, I don't need a man's help. And then proceeds to drop the luggage, spilling everything on the beach, right? This is typical slapstick shit right here.
Take that, feminism.
But yeah, Saeed helps pack all the shit back into suitcases and realizes it's all Boone stuff.
No.
And she very emotionally insists that she needs these items. She needs all of Boone's things because she's very pessimistic that they'll ever be found if they run and hide. And she needs all these things with her. And Saeed just offers some emotional assistance. Useless prick.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling this Shannon scene, to be honest. It's a rare misstep in this otherwise near perfect episode, I think.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's great to see this scene between Shannon and Saeed because they'd previously broken up.
Well, yeah, I guess I don't like it because it's reestablishing a relationship that I don't want.
What do we call this relationship? Sanan? Shaid?
Shaid.
So we cut from that back to the Black Rock. Hurley is legitimately spooked after Arzt's explosive death. And Kate is just there trying to comfort him like he's a traumatized animal or something, like a pet dog. He's just sitting there with like his chin in his fist, just silent. He's just, oh man, I feel kind of bad for him. He's never seen shit like this before. This
would traumatize you, right? I mean, it's crazy how it's played for laughs in a way. Shock value at the very least.
Somebody just died.
Yeah.
Like, let that sink in. And all he says is, that was messed up. He just exploded in front of it. Like he's processing what happened. It's like 404 does not compute. But then he says to Kate that he thinks he caused it because of his curse.
And of course he would think that.
Yeah, it's awesome seeing all these past episode elements just colliding together in this episode.
And I know Hurley is upset here, but let's not forget that Kate is also down a shirt.
I didn't even think of that. I mean, what if it gets cold?
So she's going through some shit right now as well. Unlike Jack and Locke, who seem completely unfazed and have just gone straight back to work.
Well, they know that, the shit needs to be done. This has to
time's
happen.
a wasting. Time's a wasting.
Exactly. So we cut to Jack. He's soaking his shirt in a mud puddle. He's such a dickhead because Locke reaches in to delicately remove a stick of dynamite. And just as he's about to touch it, Jack just interrupts him. He's like, wait.
But Locke gets his revenge here pretty quick.
Like, I couldn't help but be reminded of the game, what is it, Operation? And Locke even references it. He says, have you ever played Operation?
Well, Locke couldn't help it either. This is a funny little line here. Have you ever played Operation? Consider it Jack's a surgeon.
Locke knows he's a surgeon, right? Oh, of course, the whole island knows he's a doctor. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Jesus. But yeah, even after watching Leslie swinging around this stick and just blowing up, Locke has no problem just removing it out, laying it on the shirt.
He trolls Jack on the way. He goes, Jack fucking shits his nicks.
And he's got a fucking glint in his eye and everything about it. But Jack wants to deck him. And not for the first time this season. Like, this is a recurring thing.
To be fair, that is like, if I was Jack, I'd feel the same. I'd have been like, dude, not fucking now.
But talking about past episode elements, Locke would know all about the game Operation from his days of selling toys.
I was going to say, he loves a bit of Mousetrap. He loves a bit of Operation.
Absolutely. We cut back to the beach. Charlie comes up to Claire and he's made a Bjorn.
He says he solved the turnip head transport problem. There's your fucking song title, Charlie. Next album, at least.
But yeah, it's like this big fucking, it's basically a hammock that you wear and you put a baby in. And he says it's called a Bjorn. Have you ever heard of a thing being called a Bjorn?
Yeah, baby Bjorn. I've heard that.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's the things that you strap babies to your body with, basically.
Yeah. Now, I don't know much about the word Bjorn, but I know it's Swedish, right?
Yeah, it's Swedish for bear.
But yeah, Charlie says it's Dutch for baby carrier. Just pure talking out his hole. So then Rousseau rocks up to the two of them and just insists to Charlie, do you know where Saeed is? I need Saeed. I need him fucking now. And Charlie's like, all right, chill your tits. I'll go get him.
Also, Rousseau, you must have noticed this in this scene like I did. She has amazingly clean teeth for being on an island for 16 years.
Yeah, what is she using? What's her secret?
Is her secret not eating anything?
That would explain a lot. Also, maybe not a lot of water. She's full on cray-cray. But anyway, Charlie fucks off to try and find Saeed. And this is where, it's kind of creepy, right? Rousseau only has eyes for the baby.
Yeah, this is terrifying.
Yeah, I think it's a reveal here that, she doesn't really need Saeed. She just wanted Charlie to fuck off. So she only has eyes for the baby and she wants to hold the baby. She's asking about the name. And Claire is fully tuned into just how fucking weird this is. She's like, no, go away. Like, I only just fed him. I don't think it's a good idea. Please don't hold my baby. Please leave me alone. But Rousseau's not letting up. She's creepily insistent on holding this baby. And Claire catches a glimpse of the scratch marks that Locke mentioned in the previous part of the episode. And it triggers a fucking memory of her being the one to cause them. Like, this is a reveal, right? So when Claire was attacked in the night previously and everyone thought she was crazy, no, it was Rousseau that did it.
You think it was the time she was attacked and she woke up screaming, right?
Yeah, right? It has to be that.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because I was sort of placing it somewhere around where she was kidnapped by Ethan, but that wouldn't make sense because it was Ethan who kidnapped her.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Damn, that's crazy.
And isn't it funny how two people decide to ambush Claire in the middle of the night so close to each other time-wise?
Yeah.
But yeah, Claire asked the question of, why did I scratch you? She has this memory of Rousseau basically attacking her and Claire scratching her in self-defense. It's just a fleeting memory, but it's enough to set Claire's alarm bells off. So we cut from that highly charged scene into a flashback of Charlie in a hotel room and he's pulling the place apart. He's looking for something, clearly his drugs. He fucking pulls the covers off the bed to reveal just this random woman.
Yeah.
And he's rushing because, he's got a flight to catch. He's heading to LAX. He's got to get on that oceanic flight. But he needs his drugs. He needs to find the drugs. Girl gets out of the bed and she's like, oh, have you got any left? One more bump for the road.
Decent Aussie accent on her. I think I could tell that she wasn't Australian. I might be wrong, but it was like one of the few good Aussie impersonations in this from a junkie, no less. Fair play to her.
Yeah, absolutely. What, you think they just got a junkie off the street? Like,
can you imagine? Do an Aussie accent and we'll give you some gear.
She's a good fucking actress, right?
Nah, she is.
Because it's just when Charlie finds his baggie, that's when she asks, oh, can I get another bump for the road? He finds it in the bathroom, but he comes out and says, oh, it's all gone. Sorry, all gone. We did it all last night, but I've got some drink left, just some alcohol. She's not buying it. She starts tearing the place apart as well, looking for drugs. And this is the mindset of the junkie, just tunnel vision, just so blinkered. Mm-hmm. She needs that fix.
She also calls this band Drive-Through.
Yeah, she's not a fan at all. He just had drugs and got her laid. So whatever. But he decides to start toying with the baggie while she's in the room. She spots him and she's like, oh, you have got it. And she full on attacks him for it. This is shocking.
Yeah. I don't know. Has he paid for it? I'm not really sure.
I'm assuming he did. I mean, if she had been the one to pay for it, she would have screamed, that's mine. She cannot wrestle it from him. They even fall to the ground fucking fighting. But, she just ends up throwing a shoe at him and stomping off. And he's got his precious. So we cut from that. We're back to the island. Charlie has finally caught up with Saeed, but hears Claire screaming. And this sets everyone's alarm bells off. So when they hear Claire scream, they run back to the beach and realize that she's gone, and so is Rousseau. Oh, and the baby. I suppose the baby's semi-important in this as well.
Turnip Head's not just hanging out there. Like, hey, that was crazy shit. You guys should have seen it.
And despite the fact that Rousseau has disappeared with Claire and the baby after hearing Claire scream, Charlie decks Saeed.
Oh my God, the biggest overreaction in history. But fucking Saeed is not even phased. He completely disproves Mike Tyson's thesis here. That thesis being everyone's a plan until they're punched in the face.
Oh, thank you.
Saeed gets punched in the face, but cunt's got a plan.
Charlie hits him once and he goes in for a second hit. And Saeed does the smartest thing here. He grabs Charlie by the throat. I'm telling you, man, you ever get in a fight with somebody, grab them by the neck. Because this is like, fuck Mike Tyson's thesis. This is mine. Everyone's got a plan till they've got their neck held.
Are you speaking from experience?
I am speaking from experience.
Damn.
Yeah, this is a guy that got in a fist fight with me when I was in school. This
is fucking badass though, because he grabs him and he just goes, don't hit me again.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is incredibly emotionally mature from Saeed. He recognizes that this is an emotionally charged situation. Charlie is just firing off the walls. He's acting on impulse here. Saeed's not blaming him for it, despite the fact he just got fucking clogged. Even though Charlie's blaming Saeed for bringing Rousseau into the camp, Saeed just astutely says, there's enough fucking blame to go around, dude. So gets on his shit, says, Rousseau has a head start. If we leave now, we can catch her. So Saeed and Charlie decide they're going to head off. They're going to try and catch Rousseau. We cut back to the Black Rock. Jack and Locke are still packing away the dynamite. And finally, only now the question comes up of how much dynamite to actually bring. Locke reckons 3 sticks ought to be enough to blow the hinge on the hatch. Therefore, we should bring 6. One person carrying 3 sticks of dynamite, another person carrying 3 sticks, in case one of us, he just leaves it hanging, but we all know, in case one of us does a Leslie. And that's when Kate comes up and she decides, I'm carrying one of the backpacks. And Jack's like, the fuck you are?
She uses very specific words here. She says she needs to do this. And Locke perks up. It's like he's got his first erection since the Clinton administration.
Yeah, because any mention of someone needing to do something, he's just keyed into it being about fate and destiny and whatever. Jack asks Hurley if he wants to take some dynamite. Hurley's not listening. He's too distracted.
The fucking head on him is incredible.
He just points at Jack and says, dude, you've got some Arzt on you. And lo and behold, there's like a little lump of flesh just on Jack's shoulder.
And I always remember the scene. I remember Hurley's face. I remember the line. I had totally forgotten Jack's reaction. Like, he sort of looks in and he's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
But it's sort of in a, like, I don't have time for this kind of way.
Yeah, he just rolls his eyes. He doesn't even swipe it off. I always had a memory in my mind of him swiping it off or something, but no, he doesn't. He just literally rolls his eyes and like, fuck's sake.
It's so great.
So we cut to Locke playing a little game of shortest stick carries the packs. And the short stick is drawn by Locke and Kate.
So they're taking them. To be fair, like, I can see Kate's argument here. Other than Hurley, with all due respect to her, she is the most expendable. You don't want your doctor to go kaboom.
Correct.
Or your hunter.
Yeah, so why the fuck is Jack so gung-ho about... Like, I thought he was a logical man of science, right?
It's bravado. It's dumb.
So we cut from that. We're on the boat. We've got Michael explaining some of the equipment to Walt. Walt's got a life vest on him, which is very precautious, I guess.
Yeah, good move.
Sawyer is reading all the messages in the bottle because, of course, he is. That's just exactly what you'd expect of him.
Massive reveal here. And that's that either Steve or Scott, which they managed to get another chuck in here. One of them was getting their hole on the island.
Yeah, Tracy was sleeping next to Scott. Oh, wait, was that Steve?
I can't. Do you know what? I don't think I noticed this running joke any other watch through of Lost. I don't remember them doing it so much. I fucking love the Steve Scott bit.
Yeah, Sawyer's called out for his shit here by Walt. Walt's like, what are you doing reading all these letters? And Sawyer just calls him whatever, kazoo, and then holds up another letter and says, who the hell is Hugo? And what's he doing with $164 million? It's brilliant. Sorry. I think he just says $160 million, not 164. I don't know where I'm getting that from. But anyway, so that's the boys on the boat. And Walt asks him, can I read your letter? And Sawyer says, no, because the only letter I got is for the man I'm going to kill. Deep conversation for a kid.
I was going to say, wild thing to just come out and say to a 10-year-old.
Yeah, but he's so stymied when Walt asks him, why you got to kill him? I just do. But why? And I love how Sawyer is still wearing his mismatched glasses. That's just a great continuity thing.
He just looks hilarious with his little man bun like tied up and his shitty glasses, reading these letters with a shit-eating grin. It's fantastic.
So we cut back to the island. We've got Saeed and Charlie. They are in full pelt after Rousseau. And Saeed reckons that she's heading for the black smoke because, and this is so fucking clever, I wouldn't have thought of this on my own. When the black smoke appeared 16 years ago, she had her baby taken, as she told the survivors. Now that she's got Claire's baby in her possession, she wants to make a trade. And fuck, that is so clever. But Saeed brings Charlie to the gun case and finally hands him a gun with the warning, don't make it personal.
Educated advice right there, considering what Charlie did last time.
Also, Claire and Son run up here. And I don't think I made it clear last time that Rousseau's only gone with the baby, not with Claire and the baby. She hasn't kidnapped both of them, just the baby. I think I implied that she kidnapped Claire and Claire got her ass taken again. Where's Liam Neeson when you need him?
Poor Claire here, though. She's fucking hysterical. I mean, and I don't mean that in a condescending sort of toxic way. She's just, she's in a bad way. Yeah, she's insisting that she goes with them. Obviously, everyone recognizes this is a bad idea. And Claire eventually comes around, just begging Charlie, bring him back, bring Aaron back. And there we have the first name reveal. New turnip head name just dropped. So, she begs Charlie to get Aaron back. And Charlie fucking promises to do it. And I'm like, dude, that's a big fucking promise. Yeah. Although then again, him and Claire were kidnapped before and both of them made it back to camp. So statistically, odds are good. And that scene ends with another foreboding shot of the black smoke. This episode is not letting us forget it. Nah, this episode loves showing that smoke with ominous music over it. It's a constant, pervasive threat. Obviously building up to something. So we cut from that. We're in a flashback. Walt is playing a Game Boy in the airport, a Game Boy Advance SP, I might add. SP, damn, yeah, that was a great little bit of technology. Didn't really do much more than the Game Boy Advance. It just looked nicer, but I had one. Did you? Yep, absolutely. I had one as well. The flip phone of Game Boys. Yeah, but it was so much cooler than flip phones. Anyway, I have no idea what game Walt is playing on it, but I do have trivia related to this later on. Don't you worry. Can't wait. Yeah, we're going to get to it. Michael's trying to have a bit of conversation with his fucking newfound son. Walt's just ignoring him. Walt still has this, animosity towards his father. He's not about it. So Michael decides to get up, just abandon the kid in the airport, walk away. But he only goes over to a little payphone to call his call his mother. And, the long and the short of this conversation is, I ain't ready to do this. Can you take him? Locke is wheeled by in a wheelchair. and he sprinkles a little supposed to dust in the air. Because Michael says, I'm not supposed to do this.
It goes against destiny, right? So Michael's a little disappointed that apparently his mother can't take the kid. He hangs up the phone, turns around to go back to Walt, and Walt is just standing there, having heard everything. That he's not wanted, and his dad's trying to pawn him off on someone else.
Well, do we know that he heard everything? I think they leave it ambiguous.
Yeah, because he doesn't acknowledge it. All he says is, I need new batteries.
Yeah, which could mean either way. Like, it could be that he heard none of it and has just arrived to ask for batteries, or he heard it all and he's just so unfazed by it because he doesn't give a shit what this dude thinks. Or maybe he is bothered by it, but he's pressing it down.
Yeah, one of the two. So we cut from that. We're back on the boat, and Michael decides to let Walt steer the boat. And this is great. We just go from a scene where these two are not getting along immediately into a scene to show you how far they've come now, where we're having a real father-son moment.
It's fantastic. It's such a sweet little scene.
He teaches Walt how to steer the boat. You know, don't turn the thing too much, too sharp. Just gently and aim for that bit on the horizon, all this shit. And, you know, Walt takes the opportunity to ask, why didn't Michael stay with his mom? And Michael, you know, he doesn't shy away from the question. He says, you know, their lives just went in different directions.
He's always very good about defending Susan, even though she did kind of fuck him over.
Yeah, and speaking of defending Susan, when Walt says why he never got to see his dad, Michael says, your mom didn't want me to.
Yeah, but, you know, I think he does it diplomatically, though.
I don't know if that's the right decision, because it could be salting the memory of his mother in Walt's mind a little bit, like souring it a little bit, maybe letting that animosity kind of come through. I mean, Michael, how much animosity does he have for Susan at this point?
I guess he's probably moved on from the raw feelings, and she's also dead. So I guess he's not holding that grudge beyond the grave, or I guess she would be beyond the grave. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be pain there, but I think he's probably moved on from it and processed it, right?
Yeah, it definitely feels like it. But the conversation's cut short when they hit a fucking speed bump in the ocean.
Fucking hell.
Of all the space that they fucking have, they run over a floating log.
Well, I was going to say, we have this sweet little scene with Mike and Walt, and then he leaves the little cunt on the rudder for 2 seconds.
But in fairness, like, you know, Walt couldn't see it. No one could have seen it coming. There's a huge bump. A log gets hit under the boat. It gets kind of stuck under the boat, and it knocks off the rudder into the water. And this is a fucking massive thing to happen. Like, they lose that rudder, they are fucked. They're just left sailing, you know, in the wind, wherever the wind carries them. They are well and truly fucked. Jin drops the sail. I love how savvy Jin is. He actually drops the sail, right? Sawyer jumps into the water to try and rescue the fucking rudder. Long story short, the boys get some rope, throw it out to him. He ties it around the rudder, and they pull him back in. But here's the thing. When Sawyer jumped in, he took his shirt off first and removed some of his effects before he dived in. So when he climbs back on the boat, Michael hands his things back to him, finding the gun that Jack gave him.
I love this. This is great writing here, because there's a little bit of drama here created with the rudder, and it's really good drama. This was quite a compelling little scene, I thought. Like, I enjoyed it. It was tense, but then it has a point as well. It serves a narrative purpose where, like, yeah, like you said, Mike finds the gun and he's not too happy about it. Okay, so I'm going to push back on that slightly. I feel like there could have been a more organic way to bring up tension that resulted in finding the gun rather than a log all the way out there in the fucking water. Like, where did it come from? Yeah, to be fair, I didn't even notice the log. Like, when you said it, I was like, I guess that makes sense. I didn't really know what caused the rudder to break off.
Yeah, no, they explicitly say that they hit a log, and you even see the log floating in the water afterwards, separate from the rudder. Michael hands back the gun and lets him know that he's not entirely happy with this discovery, because Sawyer didn't tell them that he had a gun. He brought a gun with them on the boat. And I feel like, yeah, that's actually pretty important information to let your shipmates know, right?
Yeah, he should have told someone.
After that, we cut back to the Black Rock. Short little scene. The backpacks are on and the boom crew is ready to go. And Locke suggests that they stagger formation. So if one person booms, then it's one boom and one boom only.
If the mission goes Arzt's ways.
But the funny thing is, even though they're going to be walking single file back through the jungle, spread out a little bit, Locke is supposed to be the one leading them, and yet he's at the back.
Yeah, what the fuck? I didn't think about
What
that.
is the logic of this decision?
So he's just shouting ahead, going, "Take a left here."
Because Jack even explicitly says, "You see me heading in the wrong direction." And that's when he says, we need to keep a safe distance from each other, right? We stagger it out. And so with that, they all head off from the Black Rock in the direction of the hatch. So cutting from that scene, we are at the caves. The beach survivors have finally made it back to the caves upon Saeed's instruction. We see that Shannon's got Vincent, and she can't help but let her gaze linger on the site where her brother died.
What I liked about this episode is that it's nice that Shannon finally gets a chance to grieve. We talked about this, how there was a kind of big hullabaloo right after Boone's death, and we didn't really get to focus on Shannon much. I feel like she gets that space in this episode.
Yeah, because after Boone died, there was just a series of other events happening, and Shannon was relegated to the background, like mourning Boone, but very much in the background. She wasn't given any real screen time to do it.
Yeah, and a lot of it was anger as well, which is, of course, like understandable and a perfectly natural stage of grief. But this is the more like laid back isn't the word, but you know what I mean. This is the more low key stage of grief.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So Sun decides to rock over, and she's got a little bowl of food or something for Shannon, or at least so I thought. Nope, turns out it's just water for the fucking dog. But she decides to sit down next to Shannon and let her know that her brother died bravely, which is a nice gesture. It's a nice thing to say, kind of. I'm not sure if she needed to bring it up, but she decided to anyway.
Yeah, well, everyone is kind of confronting Shannon with her grief in this episode as well. Walt did it too.
Yeah, and there's a great connection here. On Sun's previous conversation with Jin, right before he left, he made a comment how being on the island is his punishment for being a bad husband. And so Sun here is asking Shannon if she thinks that they're all being punished for things they did before. And Shannon just poignantly asks who Sun thinks is punishing them. And Sun responds with fate.
Yeah. Sun subscribing to the they're in hell theory.
Yeah, which was definitely a fucking running theory back in the day.
Or purgatory. You know what? I'm going to say this right now, okay? It's our season finale. I think it's finally time to reveal this. Do you remember how, like, I remember when the first season of Lost was knocking around telly, airing. I was about 13 or 14, and the purgatory theory made its way to me, right? They're in purgatory. Everyone's really dead. I didn't think that was such a bad theory.
No, it's not, but it's a little bit predictable by virtue of the fact that everyone predicted it. So Sun thinks fate is what's punishing them. Claire chimes in with her own little atheistic view. No such thing as fate, she says. This brings us into the next scene. We are on the shore where we've got Saeed and Charlie. They're still chasing after Rousseau. This is the rocky shore I mentioned before. It's a very distinct location.
And there's a distinct musical theme here as well. Giacchino brings this one back a lot. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like, I'm trying to sing it from memory here. It might be inaccurate, but it's... I could be totally off there, but it's like a sort of, I don't know, it's a little adventure-y sort of... Anyway, it comes back a lot.
I know the one you're talking about. I think it's a variation of the exploration theme. It's like...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah, that's the exploration theme.
Yeah, I was way off with my fucking rendition. What the fuck?
But because they're in hot pursuit of Rousseau, it's got a little bit of a little bit of a jump to it. It's hustling along.
Some urgency to it.
So we're just following along with Saeed and Charlie, running along the rocky shore. They make their way into the jungle. They're heading right in the direction of the black smoke. And for a moment, Charlie fucking loses Saeed. And this is almost like a point of tension, but we find him fairly quickly. He's standing by the plane.
The little Beechcraft.
Yeah, little Beechcraft, the drug smuggler plane. And pretty much throughout this whole scene, Saeed just brings Charlie up to speed on what they found with the plane, about the two priests who are supposedly from Nigeria, or supposedly are priests, and it's just full of heroin. Now, Saeed does not know about Charlie's heroin problem.
Most people don't. Most characters.
Yeah, this is a detail that's very much been kept under wraps. So Saeed chucks one of the statues of the Holy Mary down on the ground, shatters, shows off this heroin in it. And then he's like, okay, enough of the walking tour. Let's keep going, and fucks off. And we're just left on a shot of Charlie looking down at the heroin. And I gotta say, it is such a beautiful shot. The camera straight up at Charlie's face as he's looking at it. They actually do a fucking dolly zoom.
I was going to say, yeah, it's a dolly zoom. And Charlie's got his my precious.
Yeah.
We've seen it before.
So after Charlie's left staring at the heroine, we cut from that. We're back to the Boom crew making their way through the jungle. They are very much aware that one wrongly placed foot and they all go fucking boom because they are not spaced out enough. I don't care what Locke was saying earlier on. And Hurley decides this is the moment to, talk about what could be in the hatch. He starts speculating and he thinks it's a stack of TV dinners from the 50s. Maybe some Twinkies, soap, socks. What about TV with cable? He's just pure fucking fantasizing now at this stage.
I mean, to be fair, Hurley's had the best guess so far. The closest guess.
Why do you want to spoil that?
All I can say for those of you who haven't watched it is he's not far off.
So Hurley decides to ask Locke what he thinks is inside. I mean, we're on like episode 24 here now at this stage. He should know better than to ask Locke any fucking question.
A question, yeah. The ultimate question dodger. Can I also just point out really quick, where Locke reveals that he likes Twinkies too?
Yes.
There's like a reverse shot and the shot of Hurley looks really grainy and weird. Like it's almost like it was edited in from a scene that they didn't touch up in post or something.
I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it's a far away shot of Hurley zoomed in. Because I spotted it as well.
That's a good guess.
Yeah, because the reverse shot wouldn't work if the camera was like a vastly different distance away from Locke than it is to Hurley, or sorry, the other way around. So I think they actually zoomed it in a bit for Hurley.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because I definitely noticed that.
Do you think Jack Fender positioned the camera and he was like, all right, when we're filming Jorge Garcia, we need to move it back about 10 feet?
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
That would be
Jorge.
horrible.
I'm sorry, Jorge. Please don't consider that when making your decision on whether to come on this podcast to drink cans with us next season.
Boom.
I'm also sorry to my ma. She hates when we make the fat jokes.
But anyway, in response to the question of what he thinks is inside the hatch, he responds with hope. Like, fuck off.
Shitty answer.
Yeah, give me an actual answer here. But then they're all suddenly startled by the bird. This is the second time this bird has made an appearance in this season.
Okay, so I think I asked this last time and you said no. And I totally forgot about that first appearance because I wrote this down to ask it again. Is this the Hurley Bird?
This is the Hurley Bird.
Oh, it is.
So here's the thing. The Hurley Bird, to the best of my knowledge, makes 3 appearances throughout the entire show. The first 2 are in this season, and the next 2 are either in like, I don't even think it's in season 2. I think season 3, 4, maybe even 5. I'm not sure, right? But it's this one fucking bird that makes a noise in the background. That's obviously not the sound of any bird call. This is an artificially created sound, and every time it does it, it draws the character's attention and they go, did you hear that? Or something, right? And it never becomes anything. So this bird fucking rocks up now, and we actually get a shot of the bird flying away. Pretty dated CGI at the time, but it's this big fucking bird. And the reason it's called the Hurley Bird is because the third time we hear it, it could be near the end of season 2 or season 3, later season, whatever, who gives a shit? The third time we hear it, it very distinctly, it cries out the name Hurley. It's kind of distorted. You just hear, right?
It sounded like that to me here. I thought maybe I was just listening out for it.
Right?
Did it sound like Hurley to you here?
Kind of, although I think it's because I'm listening for it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Maybe it's like confirmation bias.
The third time we hear it, minor spoilers, it's Hurley and Kate in the jungle. They're startled by the bird. It flies off. It makes its weird ass cry. And Hurley actually makes the point of asking, dude, did that bird just call my name? And Kate responds with, I think it did.
Okay.
Now, I may have the lines in that totally wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, that's how that scene goes.
Okay, so should we save our Hurley Bird discussion for that episode?
It appears here, so I'm happy to discuss it.
The Hurley Bird goes fucking nowhere, right?
Yeah, it goes absolutely nowhere.
It's the dumbest thing in the show, I think. I remember people complaining after the finale that the Hurley Bird was never answered, and I was like, what the fuck is the Hurley Bird? Because I didn't remember it at all.
Of all the mysteries that don't get any kind of an answer to.
Who gives a shit? I think there's a slight reference to it in the, what do you call it? The epilogue, that little short they did that's officially canon, that's post-finale, where they have the Hurley Bird in a Dharma Initiative cage or some shit. But like...
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah, but it doesn't explain anything. It just acknowledges its existence again and maybe suggests that I don't know. It's because of the Dharma Initiative. It doesn't have a very satisfying answer. But who the fuck wants one? Even the concept, a bird that says Hurley's name, that's fucking stupid. I don't want that to go anywhere.
And actually, this just in, after a quick scan of Lostpedia, apparently this is the first appearance of the Hurley Bird.
Okay.
But I'm calling bullshit on Lostpedia here. This is the second, because we have definitely heard this artificial bird call before. Not as articulate as it is in this one. It is just a general fucking bird call previously. But here, there's a little bit of articulation to the sound it makes. And then when we do, hear it for the final time, it does make the cry of Hurley.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't mean for it to sound like Hurley here, but it did. And then fans lashed onto it. And then they were like, yeah, fuck it, a bird that says Hurley. Yeah, let's include that in another episode.
And I can even tell you for a fact that when it's drawn attention to the fact that, when Hurley goes, dude, did that just call my name? Even on the DVDs, it's subtitled as Hurley. Anyway, that's a lot on the Hurley Bird. I'm very passionate about the Hurley Bird aspect of the show. I apologize. But yeah, they're startled by the bird, and Hurley just says, whoever named this place Dark Territory, genius. And then boom, end of episode.
End of part 2 on Disney Plus. It says to be continued as opposed to lost, which is jarring.
Yeah, I mean, it does say lost, but after the to be continued. So there's part 2 of 3. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. Maybe, I don't know, I guess this did feel like a middle part. Like it's not as good as the first part. I don't think it's as good as the third, but hey man, I consider the entire thing one episode. It's difficult to separate them.
I mean, by its very nature, this can't be as good as the first or second because it doesn't have its beginning. It doesn't have its end. It is just a middle part. But this has some of the best fucking scenes in all of season 1, if you ask me. Like everything Arzt, I'm talking about his third wife, to him getting blown the fuck up, to do you know what? One that we didn't spend too much time on. The American dude speaking Korean to Jin in the toilets. The extraction of the dynamite. Like, there's a lot of good shit in this episode. And then there's the scenes with Michael and Walt, which, well, just weren't doing it for me here.
Yeah, really, I like those. I didn't like the scene with Saeed and Shannon. That was my main reason for rating this one lower than part 1 or 3. But like I said, it's all one up to me.
Yeah, because this originally aired with what we're now calling part 3 together as one episode, I feel like it's a little bit anachronistic to take just this 42 minutes of television on its own. So we are finally on the final part of the final episode of the first season of Lost, Exodus, part 3. Let's fucking go, boys.
Let's do it.
We have Boom Crew hauling ass through the jungle as slow as possible because Kate's got the dynamite, Locke's got the dynamite. They don't want to put a fucking leg wrong. And something catches their eye in the fucking jungle. There's like rustling and some shit. They hear something. And do you know what they see, Dave? Do you remember what they see?
The fucking smoke monster.
I have no memory of it being revealed in this season.
It starts out as like a little wisp of smoke first.
This is the first time we see it. It's just this little wisp of black smoke darting through the jungle. And this seems to be like based on the legend of the will-o'-wisps, right? The will-o'-the-wisp, which are like these like lights in a bog that guide you or whatever into boggier territory so you can sink down and drown. I'm losing my articulation. It's late at night here. We've been recording a long time. Go fucking easy on me, right? But they fucking see it. They see a wisp of black smoke. And I'm not sure if they actually like make the connection.
But we hear the noise.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if they make the connection that it is the smoke monster, but they hear like some squealing, like they hear some weird noise. It kind of puts them all on edge. And then all of a sudden, the ground just starts exploding around them. This is the trademark of the monster. The monster has returned, whatever the fuck it is. I wonder, have they made the connection between this black wisp of smoke and the monster? Because they see the smoke, it disappears, and then boom.
Well, if they haven't now, they're about to.
Keep in mind, Kate and Locke drew the short straw, so they have the dynamite. But as soon as the monster appears, Kate, with the full knowledge that she's got a backpack full of dynamite, pegs it.
Well, I think she drops the backpack, right? As per Jack's earlier instructions. She doesn't?
She doesn't. Jack.
Does Jack?
Jack stops and he takes off his backpack.
Ooh, okay.
Giving away a later reveal. So everybody leaves. They fucking punt it. Jack leaves his backpack and Locke decides to head towards the monster.
Yeah. Well, there's precedent for this, right? He looked it right in the eye in Walkabout.
Yes, and he said he saw like the heart of the island or something like that.
And Jack can't fucking believe what he's seeing, and he sounds like a New Yorker here. Did you catch this? He's like, "Look, what are you doing?"
I think Matthew Fox always sounds like that when he gets overexcited.
Yeah,
he loses himself in the acting. Jack decides to go after Locke. I don't know, like to try and save his ass from this monster or whatever. But Locke is just sleepwalking into it because he thinks, it's going to be fine. I'm going to see the monster again and it's going to be cool. I'm going to have like a religious experience or some shit. But no, the ground fucking blows next to him. Johnny Locke falls to the ground and the monster looms over him. And we see it from the monster's POV. We just see Locke's face. We don't actually see the monster. But holy shit. Terry O'Quinn, the expression on his face.
And the fact that Locke is scared. I mean, that's the first time we've seen that.
He's not just scared. He is straight up terrified.
He's shitting a brick.
Yeah. Anyway, he gets the fuck up, pelts it through the jungle. The monster is clearly chasing after him. We hear the Hurley Bird again.
Hate that.
Yeah, I mean, we do see, Jack, Kate, and Hurley looking for him. But yeah, no attention is drawn to it. We do hear the Hurley Bird in the background. I am going to fucking repeat that because, again, big on the Hurley Bird mythology. Jack catches up to Locke just as Locke has been grabbed by the ankle by the unseen monster and dragged face down through the jungle backwards, like
complete with like fishing rod sound. The monster's going like.
Well, I mean, that's just like one of the trademark mechanical sounds that always accompanies the monster.
It's not a literal fishing rod sound, but it is quite funny. Like what it's doing and like the juxtaposition, I guess, of the sound it's making and what it's doing.
But the monster tries to pull Locke by the ankle into this hole in the ground. This is random pit, right? The monster's pit. And Jack manages to catch up, grabs him, stops him from falling in. He's trying to pull him out, but the monster's trying to pull him in. It's a very tense scene. And Locke insists on being let go so he can follow the monster.
Despite his fear and everything, he still thinks that maybe he's, I don't know, being chosen here or something.
Yeah. What is he, like one of the fucking aliens from Toy Story? It has chosen me. Oh. But Kate catches up as well, and Jack orders Kate to grab the dynamite. And she's like, okay, let me get my backpack. And he's like, no, it's in mine. Yeah. And despite the situation, she just shoots him this dirty look. And he's like, no, run, get it. And Locke is not for this idea. He wants to jump in the hot tub with the monster. He does not want anybody throwing any fucking dynamite. But they do. It spooks the monster, and they pull Locke out.
It completely ejects the monster as well.
Yes.
Like this is the full reveal that it is a smoke monster, and it looks kind of shite.
It does. Yeah.
I remember it looking better, and I'm guessing the effect does get better by the final season. But it was a little underwhelming.
It is still a reveal though that this monster is just this black smoke. We can now actually non-spoilery call it the Black Smoke Monster, which I'm very happy about because I know I've referred to it a lot as that in the past, just with the knowledge, the foresight of what it is. But now here it is revealed in all its glory or lack thereof, Black Smoke Monster. So they've hurled Locke out of the pit. Everyone is safe. Everyone's fine. Everyone's still alive. We cut from that onto the boat. Yes, we're still going to the boat. Even though the boys have set sail, we are not forgetting about them. They're still getting some hefty fucking screen time. Michael discovers Jin's English cheat sheet. And he asks Jin to say what words he knows. And do you know what? I can only imagine that if I was Jin in this situation, I'd be like a little embarrassed. But Jin's like, oh, wait, no. Hang on, I got this. Starboard. Like he fucking whips out whatever he's got. And Michael's fucking impressed and makes the observation that Sun probably should have given one to him.
Yeah, that would have been fair. You know what else is impressive? It's impressive that Jin is learning these words. What's more impressive is that Sun, who just learned to speak English, knows what fucking, like, I don't even think I would have known the word starboard.
No. I mean, I know the word starboard and aft, but I never remember which sides of the boat they are.
Yeah, nah, me neither. Like, I wouldn't be able to translate that in a language I just fucking learned.
Yeah. But this scene ends with Jin deciding to give Michael the watch. Do you remember the watch?
This is great. Jin is a motherfucking genius in this scene because first of all, he fixes the rudder while they're in the water. Like, how the fuck did he manage that?
No clue.
And then he gives Mikey the watch. He is the King G here. How endeared are we to Jin compared to the character he was in episode 1? Complete redemption arc, and it's completed so quickly.
What has he done to actually redeem himself here besides just being a good guy? Which, I'm sorry, that's not enough for redemption. That's just the bare fucking minimum. You don't get a gold star for doing the bare minimum of being a decent human being.
I think they really see it more in his relationship to Michael than you do his relationship to Sun, because they were baiting the heads off each other early on in the season, and now they're the best of friends, essentially.
I think part of what helps us as an audience forgive Jin is the amount of punishment he's been through. Like, he did get the shit kicked out of him by Michael. He did get locked up to that piece of fuselage in the sun. He still has one of those handcuffs on his wrist.
Yeah, Sawyer marched him to the jungle that time. Sun speaking English, despite the fact that we know he perceived that as him failing her, which was a nice little redemptive moment, that still got to hurt. And he's got to feel alienated. That's punishment in itself as well, right?
Do you know what? I never thought of it from that angle, but that's absolutely true. Just that certain level of alienation is kind of a punishment enough. So yeah, do you know what? I do feel fully justified in, I don't know about forgiving Jin, but I'm okay with him now.
He's making the right moves.
So we go from the boat, we're in the caves. We've just got Claire sitting around looking mopey, and Sun finally decides to actually bring something for Claire and not just the dog, and gives her some tea. Claire's a little reluctant, but she does take it. And Sun just makes general conversation. She says that Aaron is a beautiful name, and Sun is wrong on that point. Aaron is a horrendous name, but that's just my own personal opinion. If you think I'm wrong in that, lostplotlads@gmail.com, you know where to find me.
Shit, we're gonna come back in season 2 to an inbox full of hate mail from all the Aarons that listen.
Well, all of the Aarons out there, you should be ashamed of your parents for naming you that.
I have a cousin named Aaron.
He should be ashamed of himself. So Sun does actually pick up on what's bothering Claire, and the absence of her son. I don't think it takes too much fucking working out.
Yeah, she's got a keen eye for these kind of things, son.
Oh man, I said I'm tired. Go fucking easy on me, right? We're on our third episode in a row that we're recording. We've never done this before.
Yeah, this is rough. I feel almost as bad now as I did at the end of our Paddy's Day episode. Certainly is exhausted.
But Sun says to Claire that Charlie will bring Aaron back. And that cuts straight to a scene of Charlie running through the jungle. Run through the jungle. And they spot like a little baby blanket or something. And of course, Charlie, acting before he fucking thinks, runs up to it. Saeed even yells at him to wait, stop. But no. Charlie picks it up. He actually thinks it's the baby because the blanket's wrapped around something. But when he picks it up, springs a trap, and a fuck ton of rocks fall and hit him square on the noggin.
I fucking love this. Sun literally says, Charlie will bring him back. Cut to Charlie being a fucking incompetent idiot.
Yeah. Charlie is a fucking idiot.
What a dumbass. Who would just leave the baby there?
Every scene we've seen Charlie and Saeed in, they have been full pelt in Russo's direction. They're not even off the trail. They are on her trail. And we learned that by coming across this trap. But once again, I'm sorry, I call bullshit. There is no feasible, I know Saeed mentions it, he does reference this, but there is no feasible way she could have been able to set up that trap with that many rocks.
No fucking way. Unless it was already set up. Do you know what I mean? It's an old one. That's got to be it, right? But in that case, why feel the need to give Saeed that line where it's oh, she's fast at setting up traps? Fuck off. No way.
Baby blanket's there. So
yeah, okay. She was fast at putting the baby blanket under an existing trap. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but Charlie's out after being hit by the rocks. He's a little bit hurt. Saeed goes in, checks it out, and he's like, "Oh no, that's way too deep. You need to go back, see Jack, get some fucking stitches. I'm taking this solo." And Charlie insists he stays. He continues. He astutely points out Saeed was in the military. Do some fucking field surgery or some shit.
And then Saeed breaks out a fucking home remedy that would make Sun blush.
A gun.
Well, no, you know what he does.
And it's horrible. Gets a gun, takes out a bullet, unscrews it to get at the gunpowder, gets Charlie to tilt the head back and pours the gunpowder on the wound. And we know what's coming. And Charlie seems to think, this is going to hurt, but I'm okay. I can handle this.
When I was hoping Saeed would put a bullet in Charlie's head, this isn't what I had in mind. But fuck me, if Rousseau didn't know they were following her before, like the scream that he gives out.
That is an unholy fucking scream that he lets out. It's horrible. It's agonizing. Like proper echoes through the jungle, that kind of shit. So yeah, Saeed warns him this is going to hurt. Spoiler alert, it does. And then we cut to possibly one of the most iconic flashback scenes of all time. Hurley asleep. He wakes up. He's in a hotel room, checks his alarm clock. It's dead. He checks the lamp on the bedpost. It is also not working. Looks out the window. It's sunlight. He's starting to think, what fucking time is it? How did this happen? Apparently, charging his Walkman burnt out a fuse and dropped power in the whole room. So he's now fucking panicking. He's got to get a car. He's got to go get his flight. And this is kind of following the same theme as a lot of the previous flashbacks that we've seen of the various survivors making their way to the oceanic flight. So Hurley is hauling ass, brings his bags down into the lobby. Actually, he tries to get into the elevator first, but it's full of tourists and Charlie.
Yeah. And you pointed this out a couple of weeks ago when Charlie was offering to bring Claire and Turniphead back to live with him in LA. How the fuck is he affording this luxury hotel? I thought he was broke. The episode where he's trying to rob your one to buy heroin. Where does that fit into his narrative and his finances?
Dude, I have no idea. I was going to say that if he happened to be there because he was playing a drive shaft show, then the management company's probably paying for it. But yeah, I ain't got no fucking clue.
Well, we know he isn't because he's in Australia because he went to see his brother to try and get the band back together.
I know. That's why I said if.
Yeah.
So in this very extended flashback scene, Hurley eventually, he gets into a car on the way to the airport. Car breaks down, naturally, because of course Hurley is cursed. Gets out of the car, grabs his bags and runs to the airport.
The plane station.
Plane station. Oh man, you have still got it. I don't care how tired you say you got it.
That's not mine. That's not my joke.
So Hurley gets up to the check-in counter, tries to purchase a ticket, and the lady kindly informs him that a gentleman of his size needs to purchase 2 tickets as per airline policy. So Hurley forks over the cash, buys a second ticket. He's none too happy about it. And then learns he's actually at the wrong check-in desk. He's on the desk for domestic flights. He needs international.
Why is this lady such a bitch? Like, she seems to be enjoying torturing him here. Is she fat phobic? Is she racist against Hispanics? What's her deal?
Let me just tell you, having spent well over a decade of making my living standing behind a desk for 8 hours at a time, you got to make your own entertainment wherever you can, right? Like working with the public like that, you stop seeing them as people. You start seeing them as cattle. I'm sorry. You just got to fuck with them whenever you can. So the desk attendant kindly informs Hurley he's at the wrong desk. And she says, I don't think you're meant to make this flight, dear. And Hurley just has this moment of despair before, nope, snatches the ticket out of her hands and boots it. He heads down some stairs. He's fucking legging it, hauling his suitcases, and one of them seems to be filled with foam because it's like he's lifting it up and it's bouncing around real freely. I'm sorry, but that's just like kind of thing that I noticed. It's like how you ever notice like a character in a movie or a TV show and they're drinking a cup of coffee and it so obviously does not have the weight of a full cup of coffee. It's very clearly and obviously empty.
Funny you notice these two things because that's basically 50% of your life is drinking coffee and carrying suitcases.
Yep. That makes sense. That is why I noticed it. So anyway, Hurley gets to the security line. Everyone's going through the X-ray machine. He cuts to the front of the queue and he's told, nope, back in the queue. And who do we see sitting in there? Leslie Arzt is in the queue.
Fucking Arzt. This line made me laugh so much. I think it made me laugh more than anything else in the episode, even more than the "you got some arts on you." Like, so the guy in front of him, he's like they're lining up to put their shit through the conveyor belt security, and then the guy takes out a laptop, and Arzt goes, "You're taking the computer out now?"
It's like one of those things you wish you could say to someone at an airport.
I've fucking been there. Like, you take your laptop, you see, okay, I'm going to need to do this quick in a couple of seconds. So I'll prepare now. But the cunt in front has not had the same thought.
So anyway, Hurley eventually makes it through the security line and he has to stop and take a breather when a dude in a mobility scooter goes by and Hurley stops him. He's like, I will give you $500 for that scooter. And the guy's like, no, I just had a hip replacement. I need this. So Hurley rebuffs with, okay, $1,600. Next scene, Hurley's in the scooter, powering through the airport like fucking Mario Kart. It's the funny shit because I'm sorry, it's not a fat joke, but the size of him compared to this little scooter under him is so comical. And he is powering through. I don't know where his suitcases have suddenly gone because they're nowhere to be seen, but he's motoring through the airport terminal, making his way. And just as he gets to the gate, the door closes. Your heart would fucking break for him. But he manages to convince the lady on the desk to call the pilot. She says, we got one more. And the pilot says, yes, let him on.
Hooray.
Yeah. And Hurley just grabs this woman in a bear hug.
She smiles afterwards, but that can't have been pleasant. Imagine how sweaty that cunt is.
Oh, man. Imagine having to deliver that news to the poor guy if he wasn't allowed on the plane.
He's like, come on, I have an island to crash on today.
I guess you could say it's his lucky day.
This is a fun little sequence with Hurley trying to get to his flight, but it seems a little bit pointless. Like, I think they just put it in because it's fun.
I don't know. The best thing I can think of is that it highlights just how unlucky Hurley is.
Yeah, true. Even when he's lucky, he's unlucky.
But I mean, this isn't really a trivia point, and I'm not even going to go through all the instances in that flashback, but the amount of times that the numbers appear in that flashback.
I don't think I noticed once.
Well, first of all, he's heading for gate 23. He offers the man in the scooter $1,600. He actually goes by a sports team whose jerseys are all of the numbers, 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. The numbers are everywhere in that flashback.
I love that.
But it actually blends perfectly into the next scene where we just have a close-up of Hurley chanting the numbers to himself. He's just repeating them. And I can't help but think, why?
My guess would be that it's become sort of a compulsive act for Hurley. Like when he's feeling a little anxious, he might start to just repeat them.
Yeah, maybe. But it's nighttime now. He's got the torches out. He's walking right behind Kate. And Kate overhears him and she's like, what? She asks him, what did you say? And he's like, nothing. And she says, I thought I heard 23. And Hurley doesn't let this go. He's like, why? Does that mean something to you? And she confesses that Ray Mullen, local county councillor Ray Mullen,
Ray,
sold her out to the feds for $23,000.
Yeah, Kate dropping numbers trivia like a lost the plot trivia section.
Yeah. We invite Evangeline Lilly on this podcast to defend her indefensible opinions of vaccination and masking. What? Who said that?
Full circle.
But I think this is like one of the first times where we're starting to see how the numbers connect to other characters. Because we've always been able to spot it, like especially in our trivia sections in previous episodes. But now the show is starting to become self-aware of it, right? The characters are, at least, starting with Kate here. In this same scene, we catch up to Jack and Locke, who are just a little further ahead. Jack questions Locke about what happened with this monster. Like, what is going on? Why did you walk towards the big destructive thing and want to be let go when it was dragging you into a pit? And Locke says that he believes he was being tested. And man, this is brilliant. This is fucking brilliant. Locke drops the line like a mic here. He says, this is why I don't think you and I see eye to eye. You're a man of science. I'm a man of faith. And we finally have that dichotomy spelled out in the show.
Boom. There it is. Solidified, confirmed. Let me ask you this. Do you agree with him? Do you think he was being tested or do you think he would have straight up died? Let's say he had been pulled into that pit.
Do you know what? Knowing what I know about what happens in later seasons, yeah, I think Locke was being tested. Because, let me put it this way. If he was supposed to die, he'd be dead.
I don't know. I have a feeling that at this point, the monster was just out for blood, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the motives of the monster throughout the seasons are so fucking muddy. It's never clear.
That's true. That's true.
Because you are led to believe that if this monster wanted someone dead, they would be dead. But it's very easily fended off with a stick of dynamite and it doesn't come back.
Yeah, that's true. And it didn't kill Locke that time in Walkabout. Like, why would it not kill him then and decide to kill him now? Yeah, you're probably right.
Locke has a further purpose. Although, here's another thought. the monster was possibly punishing Locke for his bravado of trying to confront it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of that's a little bit the way I interpret it. Like, if it wasn't going to kill him, it was at least trying to scare him.
At the very least, I let you live before. How dare you assume I would do it again? So Locke goes on to explain that he believes that they were all brought to the island for a reason.
Jack asked to be let into his head, and Locke fucking lets him in.
Yeah, he actually says that specifically. He's like, "Let me into your head. Like, what's going on here? How are the wheels turning in your decision making?" And Locke explains he believes they were brought to the island by the island when pushed. The island chose Jack for a reason too, he says. Jack throws Boone in his face when it comes to Destiny. Like, oh, did you ever talk to Boone about Destiny? Because, fucker's dead.
And I guess this is like Jack deciding, okay, we're doing this. He's been seething about this Boone thing for a while now.
But no, like a good Christian, any refutation fits nicely into his canon. He says that Boone was a sacrifice that the island demanded.
Pretty insensitive. I don't know. This was, I don't know that Locke thinks that this is as convincing or as he thinks it is.
I mean, insensitive, sure, but I fully believe that John Locke actually believes this.
No, I do too. I just don't think it's a good way to win Jack over.
Anyway, he explains that they're on a path and that path ends with the hatch. And Jack's like, no, the path we're on is like, we're going to the hatch to survive. And then Locke just gives the very puzzling, survival is relative, Jack. Like, the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that.
Jack doesn't believe in destiny, but Locke says he does. He just doesn't believe it yet. We cut to the next scene, flashback, and this is just so on the nose for a John Locke flashback. It's him in his wheelchair waiting to board the plane, and a couple of staff members come over to him and they basically explain there's a special chair to get people like him onto an airplane. Nobody knows where the fuck it is. And I so identify with the staff here because I've been in situations like this in work so many times.
Oh, dear.
Like, yes, I know we're supposed to have this thing, but no one knows where it is. But then one of the airline staff, comes up with the bright idea of, well, we may not have the chair, but we can at least carry him on. Would you like to be carried on? And Locke's like, well, fine, because I guess it's the only way he's getting on the plane.
Yeah, like would be a strong word, but okay.
They get him on the plane either way, and there's no other word for it. It's humiliating.
Also, what does he do if he needs to pee? Do they just bring him up to pee every couple of hours?
Oh, I didn't even think of that. And almost to rub salt in the wound, he tries to get some literature from the seat in front of him and drops it 4 miles away from where he's sitting. I don't know how he fucking manages it, but it's just out of arm's reach. He leans, he tries to pick it back up, can't reach it, and just becomes resigned to his fate of a fucking however long flight that is with no entertainment.
Poor Johnny.
So we cut from that. We're back to the jungle. The boom crew finally make it to the hatch. Locke very carefully removes his backpack. Hurley is hesitant about taking some dynamite a distance away. Locke instructs him to take the extra sticks about a couple 100 yards away. And Hurley's like, wait, me? He's managed to be so distant from this whole dynamite situation the whole time. But I'm like, dude, you came along.
Yeah. What the fuck are you going to contribute if you're not going to contribute this?
But Hurley's actually got a good head in his shoulders here because he asks for a flashlight. And Jack kind of looks at him sort of puzzlingly. And Hurley just responds with, I'm carrying dynamite and a flaming torch. This does not seem like a good idea.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Yep. On the money, dude.
Fair.
Kate is instructed to run the fuse after the sticks are laid on the hatch.
Ah, shit. Here we go, son. We opening this thing.
We get into it. Anyway, we cut from that to the boat. Walt is fast asleep. Remember, we're in the middle of the night. So they decide to run the radar. And while they're checking out the radar, turning it on once every hour, Sawyer decides to offer some absolutely unwanted parenting advice. That if that was his kid, he'd have hit him with the back of his fucking hand a long time ago.
Yeah, interesting considering his remark earlier about, where he compared the kid to a dog. If you slap it around enough, it'll think it's done something wrong itself.
I know, right? Now, hold on. I'm not going to say in Sawyer's defense, but I think the way he wraps his head around it is that, he did say earlier, child's like a dog. You smack it around long enough, it'll think it did something to deserve it. In his mind, if you're hitting the kid, it did do something to deserve it.
Yeah, you know what? You might be right.
Yeah,
I mean, not that justifies it or anything, but
no, not even a little bit. Never, ever, ever hit a child under any circumstances. But Mike thinks that, oh, well, if this is Sawyer's advice, maybe that's what happened to him. Your father hit you when you were a kid. And Sawyer says, nope, my daddy never got the chance. Blew his own brains out when I was a very young boy. So, that's dropping some family history.
I don't know if he's even telling the full truth there, though, right? The way he made that earlier about you slap a kid around long enough, it kind of sounded like he was speaking from experience. And his dad does seem like the type.
Yeah, and his dad killed himself when Sawyer was 8. So plenty time to smack around a kid, right?
Absolutely.
So Mike then says, is that why you want to die? And Sawyer's a bit thrown off by this, but Mike says, since you told me you wanted to get on this fucking boat, I couldn't figure it out. But now you're on this boat because you either want to be a hero or you want to die.
Damn.
And you ain't no hero.
That's fucking wild shit. This is exactly what I've been wondering. You know how confused I've been this whole time about why exactly Sawyer wants on this raft? The thought did cross my mind at one point that he's like, he doesn't really think it's going to work. And Sawyer's not a happy person, at least not when he arrives on this island.
Mm-hmm.
He's damaged. We've spoken about that before, particularly in his focus episodes. He's pretty fucked up. And yeah, this is it's armchair diagnosis from Mike, but it's pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah. And by Sawyer's reaction, it doesn't seem like Mike's too far off.
Yeah.
But their little therapy session is cut short by a beeping from the radar. And everyone gets very excited, and we see something off in the distance in the murky darkness on the water's edge. There's something out there, right? I wonder what that will be. So we cut back to Saeed and Charlie. They make their way out onto a totally different beach miles away, the origin of the black smoke, which is weird because I thought it was inland, but okay then.
Yeah, and we should specify not the monster black smoke.
No,
the other pillar black smoke.
Yeah, the pillar of black smoke that's supposed to signify the arrival of the others.
Interesting episode to reveal that the monster is black smoke, considering actual black smoke is a driving factor in the plot as well.
And yes, I don't think I would have connected them in any way. Do you know what? I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody watching this for the first time. And I would think that the others are some sort of a native tribe on the island that worship the black smoke monster as an island deity, right? Which sounds so out there, but given what we've got, that doesn't sound too out there, right?
Yeah, I it's possible I even thought that when I first watched it through. That seems possible.
Like if the others' calling card is setting up this big pillar of black smoke, by burning something specific, it just seems like they're honoring what we now know to be a black smoke monster on the island. So I don't know. That would have been my running theory. Yeah. So Saeed and Charlie, they find this bonfire that's set up on the beach. And as they approach it, they can hear Turniphead crying, or they hear a baby crying, but it's obviously Turniphead. And they can hear a woman whimpering as well, who we do find out is Rousseau. So yeah, Rousseau comes out. She's kind of whimpering. She's kind of crying. She's a little bit distraught, and she's holding the baby. Totally reveals her plan of she just wanted to make a trade. And we find out that Saeed was bang on the money with his theory.
Yeah.
She came to the fire thinking that the others would be here and she could hand over the baby in exchange for her kid, who was taken 16 years ago.
But the others never showed.
Yeah. Now, Charlie does accuse her of being the one to start the fire, right? To I don't know, give the excuse of getting everyone in a panic on the beach so that she could take the baby relatively unnoticed, right? But no, she says it wasn't her. She was prompted to do this by hearing the others whispering in the jungle that they were coming for the child.
For the boy.
They're coming for the boy, right? And she hands over the baby to Saeed. Saeed then passes it to Charlie. And Charlie spits at her that she's pathetic. And I'm like, that's a bit much.
Yeah, poor Danielle Russo here. Mira Furlan's performance, it elicits like so much sympathy, even though the character has done a horrible thing. Like, you just feel so bad for her. She's just a wreck. Having said that, with the way he's acted before, I'm surprised Charlie didn't fucking pistol whip her right there.
Like, Charlie, as you said before, he is the king of overreacting. Like, I would have expected him to do a lot worse than that, but he is holding the baby, so he's restricted a little bit that way. But fucking hell, Mira Furlan's performance here is jaw-dropping. It's so good. She's so good. But anyway, we cut back to our favorite location on the island. We are at the hatch. Locke and Jack, they lay the dynamite. And there's a lot of quick camera cuts here after they do so. And it's kind of startling because you're like, as they're laying the dynamite, the camera just cuts to Jack's face. There's like reverse shot between him and Locke. And it just makes me think, oh, it's going to blow. It's going to fucking blow and it's going to take them with it. I've seen this show like 3-4 times now and I'm still expecting it, but no. Jack decides he's going to be the one to connect the wire to the dynamite, obviously because he's a surgeon. He's got steadier hands, right? Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Once it's set, he and Locke fuck off sharpish and they call Hurley. And then Jack and Kate take cover, right? So Kate argues with them about taking the dynamite. This is where she decides to bring up the whole backpack swap.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and Jack kind of excuses what he did by saying, everyone wants him to be the leader until he makes a decision that no one likes.
I guess that's a good defense, but he says he made a judgment call, but it was a shitty move. He's a fucking doctor. Yeah,
it was just a total, heroistic fucking chauvinist attitude of, the women should be protected. I'm going to take I'm gonna take the L if this goes badly. But I'm like, no, think of it logically. You are the only doctor on the island. Get real. His life, I'm sorry, is far more valuable than everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, other people will die if he does, surely.
But the conversation turns to Locke, and he says to Kate, if they survive the night, they're going to end up with a Locke problem. And he needs to know that Kate is on his side. So Jack is thinking ahead. There's him and Locke are two of the big leaders of this group. Jack is obviously, the de facto leader of the survivors, but Locke is pretty high up there as well in the unsaid hierarchy. And there's a fundamental difference in how they see, in how they even fucking perceive what is happening to them on the island. So Jack knows, this is going to come to a head at some point, and he needs to know where Kate's loyalties lie when it does.
And let's not sugarcoat it here. When he says they're going to have a Locke problem, based on everything Johnny Locke told them in their last scene together, I think he thinks that Locke's a bit of a fucking lunatic. He thinks he's cracked.
Yeah, but based on everything that Johnny Locke has said, I would think that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not making much sense. Like, the island brought them to the island. They're being chosen and tested. I'm sorry, but no, that just doesn't make any fucking sense.
There's something erotic about the shape of a boar. Yeah, he's not making any sense at all.
But yeah, they've already called Hurley. Hurley's not there. They're looking for him again, and Hurley just stumbles out of the jungle, right? And when he does, what does he see? The numbers stamped to the side of the hatch.
Yeah, really nicely done here. He asks Jack in the last scene for the flashlight, then he drops it on the way back, which makes him notice the numbers.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah, it's brilliant writing. It's brilliant writing in that everything that happens is an organic result of what happened before it. And that is the way it should be. Very little in the show feels just artificially pulled up out of nowhere, right?
Well, in this episode anyway. I don't know if I'd say that about the show overall.
Well, I mean, certain things do have to just be invented in order to create a fucking show.
I think don't get me wrong, I think this show is mostly great, but it has its moments. The cave in the moth, for example.
Yeah, I mean, like, that was a total misstep in storytelling, I think. If you want the gold standard of a TV show having like a very basic and easy to understand premise and a very complex story naturally and organically evolving from that with very little invented out of nothing, Breaking Bad. Yeah, Breaking Bad is, to me, the gold standard of this. Think of any one thing that happens in all the seasons of Breaking Bad, and you can trace it back so naturally, as if it happened, as if this was like real life and not just a drama show. You can trace it all the way back to the very beginning of the show. It just, the word I keep latching onto is organic. It feels authentic.
It's chemistry. It's action and reaction.
It's the study of change. So Hurley returns, drops the flashlight, sees the numbers on the hatch, and freaks the fuck out. He's yelling and screaming, don't do it. He's like suddenly having a change of heart about this whole opening the hatch business. He's like, don't do it. Don't light that fuse. Don't blow the hatch. Don't do it. Don't just stop. And Locke is not very receptive to this message and lights the fucking fuse anyway.
He's not having it. He looks pissed off almost. He's like, what is this cunt talking about now? Fuck him.
There's so much in that look that Locke throws him. Locke sees getting into this hatch as more than just survival. He sees it as destiny, the end of a path that the island has put him on. It's like this religious devotion getting into this hatch. And all of a sudden, he has someone shouting at him to not do it. Locke is not going to let that fly.
Man, fuck that. Yeah, and numbers go boom.
Correct. Hurley tries to put out the fuse, fail, and the dynamite blows.
Oh, can't wait to find out what's in this hatch by the end of this episode.
There is a teeny little goof here that I wasn't going to include at the end or anything, but when you see that explosion, you can very clearly see that a lot of that explosion comes from inside the hatch.
Oh, damn, really?
Yeah, you can see it blow out through the window.
Little do they know that there's a load of dynamite already strapped to the other side.
Fucking blow them back to the mainland. Anyway, we cut from that back to the boat. We've got a little something on the radar. We're not 100% sure what it is. And the guys start arguing about whether or not to fire the flare gun. They've only got one shot at this with the flare. Just one. They cannot see what it is on their radar because it's nighttime. They don't have a very clear field of vision due to it being dark. Sawyer calls Michael and Jin Han and Chewie. This is one of my favorite things. And this is what I was reminded of earlier on when building the raft. The relationship between Michael and Jin is just like Han and Chewie in Star Wars. It
is a little bit.
Because Michael does seem to understand a certain amount of what Jin says, but no one understands Jin, like no one else. Michael opts to fire the flare gun before the dot on the radar goes away because it is moving away. Walt points this out. It's getting away. So if they're going to fire the flare gun, they ought to fucking do it now. Although it could be anything setting off the radar. You know, it could be something floating in the water. Who knows? But Michael decides, no, fire the flare gun, and the radar stops beeping. Ah, man, fucking heartbreaking, you know? And as the flare falls through the sky, the dot comes back on the radar and it's getting closer.
Just before that, we get this weird little slow-mo shot. Did you notice that? Of them like looking out on the water, anticipating?
No, I didn't notice a slow-mo shot.
Yeah, and so as they're waiting for this thing to come back when the beeps start up again, there's something like terrifyingly ominous about that beep in the silence. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know what it is. I think it's because the general silence of the water being out in the ocean. Yeah, there's nothing around them. And here is evidence of something being near them, but they can't see it. Like you can understand that that's a little bit creepy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when the beeping starts back up again on the radar and whatever it's picking up is actually getting closer to them, obviously as a result of the flare, everyone is elated. And lo and behold, a boat approaches and blares its fucking high beams at them.
And this boat is tiny.
It's just it's not even a trawler. It's this tiny little fishing vessel. Like it's
honestly, I think the raft is bigger.
It is. And they're so far out in the ocean, like South Pacific here. Like, where did this fucking thing come from? But no one wants to ask those questions too much. There are people here, other sailors, like fucking rescuing them. Like everyone is just jumping and hugging each other. Sawyer and Jin and Michael and Walt, they are ecstatic. And the boat pulls up. And, you know, the captain has a little bit of small talk with him. He's like, hey, what are you doing all the way out here? You know, all this shit.
Americans, God, they couldn't have gotten luckier here.
And Michael starts, you know, kind of rapid fire going through the story. He's like, you know, everyone starts going through it. Like, oh, we were on an island. There was a plane and we were on the plane and it crashed and on the island and blah, 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 blah. They're just, you know, throwing their hands in the air. They're so thankful. And this guy, the captain of this boat, is just like mildly interested. He's like, well, how about that? Ain't that a funny thing?
Good thing we found you, boy howdy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, you'd imagine he'd be a little bit more incredulous. Now,
Something's off.
yeah, something is a little bit off because there's other people on that boat and they don't seem to give a shit. Almost as if they're not really surprised to see the raft and its survivors. And then the penny drops. The captain says, yeah, that's great. Now we're going to have to take the boy. And Michael almost like, he still kind of has a smile on his face, but he's like, what?
Bum, 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 bum. Okay, no.
And he's like, what's going on? And it's revealed that these guys on this little boat, they're not interested in rescuing anybody. They're here to take the boy. They're here to take Walt. And oh my goodness, when you see Sawyer reach for the gun in his belt, aren't you so thankful he's got it?
Yeah, I am. What could go wrong?
Well, he barely gets it out of his fucking belt before he's shot and sent into the water, right?
Yeah, one of the goons from behind. Faster draw.
So that takes the raft's main line of defense out of action. Jin dives in to save him. So we're just left with Michael and Walt to deal with these ominous, menacing fishermen who are here to kidnap Walt. And kidnap Walt they do. But not before tossing an explosive on the raft.
It looks like a Molotov cocktail or something. It looks pretty
you see,
pretty
I
homemade.
would have thought that. I didn't see a flame on it or anything. I thought it was a jar of piss. And like, for a Molotov cocktail, it explodes with a bit of force.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Whereas
also Molotov cocktails explode on impact. Whereas I think
I was literally about to say that. Whereas this thing just kind of sits and then blows like it's a grenade or something.
Yeah, okay. I like your theory of a jar of piss.
Explosive magic island piss.
But having said that, this scene is fucking harrowing. Oh. It's really rough.
Nothing sends a tingle down your ball sack like the line, "We gotta take the boy."
Yeah, it's really scary. It's really harrowing. But also, what?
We get the first of many Walt.
It's not the first. If you'll cast your mind back to our very first episode, Michael shouts "Walt" in the wreckage of the plane crash.
Oh, foreshadowing. Darlton knew what they were doing all along. Confirmed.
10 out of 10, literally watchable.
It's like in Breaking Bad. Every time a bit of foreshadowing, had to pay off. Everyone was just like, "Gilligan, you genius!"
Yeah.
Vince Gilligan does it again.
Well played, Vince.
Yeah, well played. It's like one of those moments. But yeah, the fucking raft is in bits. It is destroyed. Everyone's in the water, just treading water. And Michael screams, "Walt," as the fisher boat takes the poor boy away.
And if I'm not mistaken, that Walt is the last word of the season.
You could be right, actually.
I think it is.
Because the rest of it is just kind of music montage.
Yeah.
Right up to the end, right? Yeah, you're actually right. I just skimmed ahead. Because we cut straight from the Walt to the caves. Saeed and Charlie return with Aaron. And we've just got fucking Michael Giacchino's music working overtime here. It's so beautiful. The swell of the music as Charlie comes back. It's a hero's return triumphantly with the baby. Claire is ecstatic. Even Shannon can bear to seem happy for a fucking minute. She rushes over to Saeed, embracing him. And, it's tinged with a little bit of bitterness because we can see that Charlie has taken one of the Virgin Mary statues with him. Oh, no!
Charlie brought a virgin home. Claire won't be best pleased.
Oh, if she finds out what's in it. Anyway, but while this whole music montage is happening, we cut into a flashback scene of the last of the survivors finally getting on Oceanic 815. We see Claire. She's trudging along, having difficulty because, she's pregnant. Kate gets on. She's covering her handcuffs. Sawyer's just looking surly as fuck as he's walking down. Like, he's doing the fucking bales of briquettes walk. Do you ever see someone doing this? Where they walk with their arms kind of out, shoulders swinging. Yeah. That's the way he's fucking walking down the plane aisle.
Yeah, and we should clarify here as well that the music is continuing over this. There's no dialogue here or anything like that.
Nope, not at all. The subtitles even just pop up occasionally to say music continues. We see Jack just putting his bag in an overhead compartment being watched by Locke. Charlie's trying to stuff a guitar in a compartment. We see Saeed sitting down and a white man trying to avoid eye contact with him.
Yeah, a little nod to the anti-Muslim sentiment of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have life and death playing over this, the theme, which is, we've talked about it before, but it's a really emotional piece of music.
If anyone remembers any piece of music from Lost, it's this theme, the life and death theme. Who else do we see on the plane? We see Jin regarding the watch that he was tasked with taking. Michael fastening Walt's seatbelt. Walt not giving a fuck. We see the Marshal tightening Kate's cuffs. I mean, she's going to be in a metal box 14,000 feet in the air. Like, where the fuck is she going to go, right? And Saeed, once again, looking at a picture of Nadia. Shannon desperately looking for something. Boone holding up her inhaler. And Hurley gets on last. And I love the look on his face. It's just sheer triumph on his face, having made it on the plane. He's hot. He's sweaty. He's hauling a lot of mass, trying to get through these narrow aisles, but he don't care.
He's fucking delighted with himself. He gives a cracking thumbs up to Walt, and Walt's loving it as well.
Yeah, fucking tongue sticking out of his mouth. Big thumbs up to Walt. And he's fucking drenched in sweat as well.
And he whips out the comic.
The comic with the polar bear on it. Yeah, the Spanish comic.
See.
And now that you see that it belongs to Hurley, it fits. It makes sense. It's juvenile and it's Spanish.
And can I just say, I think the last thing that happens, correct me if I'm wrong, is Jack stowing his luggage and then Locke meeting his eyes and they kind of smile at each other.
They don't smile, but they do acknowledge each other.
Yeah, there's like
just
a little
kind
nod.
of give each other the nod, you know?
Yeah. For that scene really got me for some reason. That particular interaction,
the music, man.
Or non-interaction. I know it's the music. I know it's Giacchino fuckery. Fuck him. I watched the Pixar
witchcraft.
I watched a Pixar movie today as well, scored by Michael Giacchino, and yeah, same thing. But yeah, it's something about them looking at each other, and I think it's sadder maybe on a rewatch than it is on your first watch through, because you and me and everyone that's seen the show are in a position where we know everything that's to come.
Yes.
And this is just sort of there's something so sad about that being the start of it all, and they have no idea. And it's just, I don't know, it's really effective and affecting.
It well and truly is, especially given our knowledge of what comes in the future and, you know, the tragic fate that befalls pretty much everyone. I'm sorry, again, not a spoiler, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that everyone dies, but everyone's going to go through serious trials and tribulations on this fucking island over the course of the next several seasons. So, and just seeing that this is where it all starts. Oof.
It's almost sad in the same way that the series finale is sad, you know?
Yeah.
It's because you reflect on everything that from this point in the story, these characters will go through. And yeah, it was heavy, I thought.
Yeah, it's almost even more poignant on a rewatch.
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm doing a disservice as well. I've mentioned everybody on the plane that we get a focus on, except Leslie. We get Leslie Arzt. He's really angling for like main character, main lineup here, even though he's dead. Like, dude's getting a lot of screen time these episodes. But even as Giacchino's witchcraft is infiltrating our ears, we cut from the flashback back to the boom crew in the aftermath of the explosion. And I gotta be honest, no matter how many times I watch this, I'm always expecting the dynamite to have done nothing. But no, even as they approach, the hatch door is on the ground.
Oh, hell yeah.
It is blown wide the fuck open.
This shit, yeah, it's open. Every time I rewatch Lost, I relive this from my first time seeing it, because I think I've spoken about this before. The hatch is what excited me most about this show, as I'm sure it did a lot of people. I was so fucking pumped, and I relive that every time I watch this scene.
And the first person to jump over to the hatch is Locke, of course. No one can get ahead of him. And him and Jack slide what's left of the hatch door to one side. They peer deep, longing into the darkness, peering. And it's just this long tunnel. The only thing we can see inside the hatch is a ladder.
Yeah.
That breaks off. Yeah, it does not go all the way down. It's broken. It's mangled a certain way down.
Oh.
But that is a deep, deep tunnel. And as the camera falls down the hole, leaving Jack and Locke's faces peering in further and further away, boom, lost. End of episode.
I was fuming the first time I saw it.
I'm fucking sure you were.
You didn't even have, you had the luxury of just going, cool, next episode. I had to wait. I had to wait like fucking 6 months or something. It was rough.
There's two TV shows. Breaking Bad is the first one. I already mentioned it. 2 TV shows where I had to wait for the next season and begrudge the show that I had to wait on a cliffhanger. Breaking Bad, that final season.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the mid-season finale.
Mid-season finale of the final season. The other show was Sherlock after season 2. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Sherlock.
Hell no.
We are trying to wrap up the end of this Herculean episode. And what do you think, Dave? Do you want to hear some trivia?
Before we move on to the trivia, let me just ask you really quick. What do you think of, I mean, we've made it no secret that we fucking love this episode. We've gushed enough about it. How do you feel about the flashbacks? Let me ask you that. Like, how do they stack up against the rest of the episode? Do you think they're weaved in and used well? What do you reckon?
In this episode in particular?
Yeah.
I think it was a really smart move to dedicate one flashback per character instead of having it be central to any one character, because we've already had just enough flashbacks in the season to establish Jack as like the main character of the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Jack isn't just the main character. He is above the other main characters, but only just. I feel like if this final episode of this season focused on Jack in the flashbacks, it would have put him too far ahead of everyone else.
I agree.
Whereas this is really an ensemble effort. And this is what this episode does. It's like we've had episodes dedicated to different characters throughout the season. This final episode of the season just ties them all together.
I agree. Yeah, it doesn't really set up anything crazy about their stories. It doesn't reveal anything like earth-shattering about any of them. But I don't know. It's just a nice juxtaposition showing just how like unsuspecting they were and how they had no idea that this would be the most important day of their lives, essentially. And I like it. It worked for me.
All right. So what do you think? Will we get to some trivia at long last?
Our final trivia section of the season. Give it to me, Edo.
Now, here's the thing. I predicted that I would not be able to hold myself back on certain trivia points during the episode. So even though I may not be left with that much, I have supplemented it with a fuck ton of goops because you know an episode I'm hosting is going to be filled with goops.
Hell yeah.
And let me tell you, dude, I have a ton of them, but I do not have all of them. I've only picked the ones that I thought were interesting because honestly, in the 127 minutes of this finale, there was just way too much.
It's a goof fest.
Holy shit, you wouldn't even believe it. Like, legitimately, you could do a full episode on them. But some of them are just boring, like Jack's tattoos switch arm in one scene, for example. You know, like no one gives a fuck about that kind of shit, right? So, and I may have already mentioned one or two goofs earlier on. So we'll see what's left, okay? Trivia. And forgive me if we've already mentioned some of these, but Annual See a Seat is revealed as 42F, right?
Yeah.
One of the numbers. Jack's seat on the plane is revealed as 23B, another one of the numbers. The Pillar of Smoke appeared 16 years ago. Numbers again. These are all from the first part, the initial 42 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else do we got in the trivia? This episode marks Ian Somerhalder, who plays Boone's, first appearance since his death with speaking lines.
But of course, good to see him again.
This episode also marks the second and final Walt flashback.
Oh, damn. That's the last ever Walt flashback?
Supposedly.
Ooh.
Now, I'm going to cast your mind back to the Black Rock. Do you remember I said there's one part of the ship that just has this line of vines coming down it?
Yes, I remember
that. Is because the section of the ship on the side of the vines that's closest to the survivors from where they're standing, the very back of the ship, that was constructed. Everything after the vines is CGI.
Oh, wow. So sorry, clarify that for me. There's CGI In the top or the bottom?
It's not so much a top and bottom half and half. It's a back and front half and half.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
the back of the ship that's closest to the survivors is real, but where it ends, they had to cover it up with like this big growth of vines and leaves and shit, and everything after that is CGI.
Nice.
Into the
That's
jungle.
awesome.
Yeah,
It looks really convincing. I didn't notice at all.
Okay, in terms of trivia, I fucking love this one, right? In Sawyer's flashback, the police point out that Sawyer was in a bar fight with Warren Truss, the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, right? Warren Truss really did fill that role in the Australian government from 1999 to 2005.
That's incredible. So Sawyer got in a fight with the actual guy. Can you imagine, like, I wonder, was that based on any scandalous news stories of him getting in a fight or something? That would be awesome.
And I'm actually going to point out one of the goofs here because it's related to that scene. It is completely impossible for Sawyer to have traveled to Australia legally. Everybody, except for New Zealanders, must apply for a visa, which includes a background check. People with extensive criminal records are denied visas. In the police station, the Australian police officer reads off Sawyer's long criminal history of committing fraud, referring to him by his real name. They would have seen this history when he applied for the visa. If he had used a phony US passport to apply for his visa and enter Australia, he would have been arrested immediately, not simply told to leave soon.
Yeah, I did think that was a little soft, that scene.
Yeah, right? Like, they just tell him to get out. What else do we have? Yes. Okay, so the scene of Sun and Jin in the airport, and the lady in the back comments, "Oh, it's like Memoirs of a Geisha come to life," and I said I had trivia on it.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. In the airport flashback, when Sun brings a sandwich, I've already given the context. Yoon Jin Kim was originally approached to play the lead role in the 2005 movie adaptation of Memoirs of a Geisha, but declined the offer.
Oh, damn.
Also, in the same scene, the husband of that Karen in Sun and Jin's flashback says that Korea's divorce rate is 20 times lower than that of the US. He's not far off, with only slight variation since 2004 when this episode aired. South Korea's divorce rate has been approximately 2%, while the US suffers from a 50% divorce rate.
Oh, damn. 2%. Wow.
That's insane.
I wonder, has it grown since?
I'd say there's just not as much of a cultural stigma around getting divorced in the West these days.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Anyway, so those are all of my trivia for that section of the episode, the first part.
Aight.
Here's some goofs, right? And again, I have only cherry-picked some of the ones that I particularly liked, right? So one of them I've already mentioned, but I'm going to read it out in full here. Leading a party in the woods, Danielle Rousseau announces they have reached the territoire fonce, the dark territory, pronouncing fonce with one syllable. In French, it ought to be foncé, 2 syllables. Furthermore, the word dark in this context only means a sense of deep shade of a color and not anything malicious or whatever. Okay, next little bit of goof. Right. Again, I've actually already pointed this one out. Oh dear, I spoiled everything. Ana Lucia says that she's always put in the rear of the plane where the wheels come down right under her feet. Her seat was in row 42. Row 42 on a Boeing 777, Oceanic Air 815, is in the front of the rear seats. The wheels are located considerably further in front of where she was sitting.
I bet the writers looked that up and they're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck it, we'll just use one of the numbers anyway.
Okay, next goof. As the raft sets sail with Walt, when Vincent runs into the water chasing it, Walt shouts, "Stay, Vincent." At the start of the next shot, on the right, the crew's vessel and equipment is quite visible. This happens again moments later, right after Sawyer hosts the sail. And I'm going to add on to that as well, because I don't have it written down. But during that entire scene of the boat getting into the water, pause it pretty much anywhere, and you'll see crew members in the back. Like, they are literally everywhere. They are on the boat recording the people. They are in the water. on another separate boat, just off camera, but you do see them briefly. Even when the boat gets into the water, there's like a shot of the crowd cheering on the beach. There's just this random guy not cheering and standing there with a megaphone in his hand. So
I heard that shooting on the water is like one of the most expensive things in film and television. Maybe they did those shots, noticed all the crew and like, fuck it, we can't afford another one.
yeah, exactly. Because they'd have to haul the fucking thing out of the water, wait till it dried off for the next shot. No.
Yeah.
It's way too expensive. They got one shot at this.
One and done.
Last little goof for the first section of this episode. When Sayid shows Michael the flare gun, remember when he gives him the flare gun? We get a close-up shot of the flare in the chamber. It has already been fired.
Well, now you'd have to really know your shit to notice that.
Yeah, and you can tell because the dimple that's in the middle of the cartridge it's already depressed in. It's already been struck. It's a spent shell. It's useless. Although clearly not, because we do see it somehow working later on.
Man, Saeed can fix anything.
So I'm not going to run through all of the trivia for the second part. You'd think being a much longer section, I'd have more trivia. I actually don't. The only thing I had was the appearance of all of the numbers as Hurley makes his way through the jungle.
The airport, you mean?
Through the airport. Again, I had to leave out a lot here because I knew we were going to have a long ass episode and I didn't want to have too much, but had to include a couple of things, right? Couple of things. And these are my goofs from the second part of this episode. All right. So during Michael's airport flashback, Walt is playing a Game Boy Advance SP. And yet the sound effect coming from it is from the Atari 2600 port of Pac-Man, which Walt is also clearly not playing.
Ah, Jesus. What a hacky Foley sound.
Yeah. And also, this is one I threw in. He says that it needs batteries. Having owned a Game Boy Advance SP in my day, I can confirm that it does not take replaceable batteries, but requires recharging. And
I remember that.
There's a hefty fucking charge time on it too, because one of the things I actually paused discussion of so that I could go back and check, when we get a close-up of the Game Boy Advance SP, it has a little green light on the side. And if you remember, when it's running low on battery, the light turns yellow.
Well, maybe it turned yellow while Mike was on the phone.
Or even red. It actually turns yellow and then it turns red, right?
Yeah.
And when it turns yellow, you've still got like a long ass time to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Damn, that's right. That's what set it apart from the Game Boy Advance SP was its chargeability, right?
Yep, exactly.
Or, sorry, from the original Game Boy Advance, rather.
But the funny thing is, it actually includes a backlight, which the original Game Boy didn't have, and it still lasted a fucking long ass time.
Man, I can't imagine playing games without a backlight now.
Oh, no. I remember playing Pokemon in the back of the car, and if it was dark outside, you could only play by the flashing streetlights that just went by. There's a childhood memory unlocked. Anyway, powering on through the goofs. Sayid is getting ready to chase after Rousseau. Charlie's about to come with him, and Sayid says that they are losing light. Yet, judging by Charlie's shadow on the ground, it's actually close to noon. Get your shit straight, right? Oh, this one I already mentioned. Arzt claims that the inventor of nitroglycerin got his face blown away. However, Ascanio Sobrero actually died of old age. Completely fictitious story.
Why did they put that in? I guess it could have been Arzt talking out his hole like he did about monsoon season just to make a point. That's my headcanon.
He just wants people to think he's important.
And smart.
And then the final little bit of goof. I don't know how much of a goof this is, but whatever. The skeletons in the black rock are still articulated in a sitting position, and some still have their arms in the manacles. In reality, they would be a pile of bones, given the connective tissue that holds the joints together has rotted away. It is also far more than likely that local animals would have fed on the bodies, scattering the flesh and bones around the ship and the locality.
Yeah, you said this, right? That there should be animals living in there. I never thought about them feeding on the bodies.
Which would absolutely make sense, right?
100%.
And so that is it. That is all of the trivia and goofs I have chosen to include here, because any more, and well, I suppose we've recorded this long, I probably could have afforded to, but whatever.
We did it, man.
Yeah, fuck, we've done it.
We're through season 1. I can't believe it.
Season 1 in the can. How does it feel?
It feels good, man. I feel tired. We've been recording pretty late. Yeah, I had a really great time this season. Every episode I've just had such a ball recording, and it's great to rewatch Lost again as well. We've met some really good people through this, and we've had some great correspondence, and we just appreciate the fans and listeners so very much. And I appreciate you.
Both
Ado.
you guys are amazing.
And I appreciate you, Ado. Thanks for doing this with me, man.
Likewise, Chief.
We're going to take a long break now.
Yes, that is right. We are going to take a little bit of a break. We are going to be back later in the year. We haven't fully settled on it yet. You're probably looking at late August, maybe early September, give or take a couple weeks.
Exactly. We want to have a summer. It's going to get sunny and we don't want to be spending it inside editing, but keep an eye on the feed because we're going to try and release some bonus episodes in the off season. We've got one scheduled to record very soon. In fact, I think we can say this. It's going to be a season one sort of post-mortem, a cool down. We're going to assess season one as a whole. That's why we haven't talked much about the season in its entirety today, because we're going to do that with some very special guests.
Yes, we are going to be joined by some very special guests. Stop stealing my lines before I say them.
So keep an eye on your feed for that.
We do want to release some bonus content over the summer. Don't get too excited. You know, maybe something once a month. We've got ideas of some stuff to do, but yeah, keep an eye on the socials, keep an eye on the feed. We'll try and get some stuff out to you, but failing all of that, we will be back later in the year. As I said, we'll keep you updated. Again, keep an eye on the socials.
Yeah, and please keep engaging with us as well. Send emails. If there's something you maybe want us to cover in a bonus episode, be Lost related or not, send us an email. If we, if it's a good enough idea, we'll fucking do it.
Absolutely, because we do this because we love it, but we also love the idea of pandering to our audience. So
100%.
But yeah, that's it. That is season one in the bag. I don't know. I think I'm going to include the whole season in this question when I ask you, Dave. But Dave, what is your theory this season?
My theory at the end of this season is that when they go down to the hatch, they'll discover it's a massive warehouse similar to the one at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark and filled with unsold Drive Shaft albums.
Or filled with all the actual sold ones from Charlie's mom. Well, you heard it first here, folks. Once again, don't forget to, like our posts, follow us on the social media at Lost the Plot Lads. You'll get all the details in the credits at the end, but please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts if you've got the time.
A massive shout out to those people in the credits as well, to Noel Brennan and Jimmy Purcell. We couldn't have done this first season without you guys either, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, do you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't want to relegate their thanks just to the credits. A huge, huge shout out to those two lads. No, this podcast would not be what it is without them, and we owe you such a debt of gratitude as we reuse your material for the next 6 years. Thank you so much. All right, on that note, it's goodbye from me.
And from me.
And don't forget, you haven't lost anything until you've lost the plot. Good night. Lost the Plot is produced by Dave and I. Artwork by Jimmy Purcell of BeanBetterComic.com. Music by Noel Brennan of No Exit. Check out No Exit wherever you stream your music. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Lost the Plot Lads, or email us at losttheplotlads@gmail.com.
I live in Sweden.